Today is episode 281. I've got a guy that I've had here before. His name's Josh Keefe of Flat Earth Brothers. He is very confident that the earth is flat. And I'm going to drill down today and really ask him serious questions. It's going to be a great discussion.
I'm going to support this because this is a blessing to many people, so I think that's...
Did you still quit teaching?
Yeah, last time I talked to you, I think it's funny because the last time we spoke, I said, I really don't know what I'm going to do for my career after
I remember
after this,
that, yeah.
But it's going to be something big, I feel. I just don't know what it is.
Right.
And it had been on my heart since I was in the classroom teaching and seeing the way standards were. I knew things were dark and demonic. It's basically like you're sending your child to a place where they say, the Bible's not true. And it was hard for me as a believer to see that. And so I was like, we got to do something. And so I know you started your own business years ago, right?
Yeah.
And people think that is the easy way. Or it's like, you're your own boss. And, but I felt led, I have to do something. And so me and my wife, we created an online worldwide biblical-based science class experience, and it has been a blessing. But it's also been the hardest work I've ever done in my entire life. But it's worldwide now. We have people, where do we have people? Africa, Alaska, Canada, I guess France now. And in a lot of places, it's illegal to homeschool your own children. Teaching them from home is illegal. And that's something I didn't realize until I got into this, is that there's a large part of the world we can't reach. And it has to do with restrictions on being able to teach your child, your own child from home. And I feel like it's probably going to be like that. It's going to start spreading out to where it's like that worldwide. But right now it's legal in the U.S. with, of course, there's a lot of restrictions depending on which state you're in.
It's really not education, it's more indoctrination, isn't it?
Yes, and I did not realize until like this year how much it ties into the Bible. Because when you go into teaching, and this is the way I can compare it to acting, you're a low-paid actor. You're given a script, it's called standards, and what those standards say, you got to teach to it because you're going to be tested on it. And your test scores are your value as a human being when you're a teacher. So it's like everybody stresses about it. And I've heard so many teachers go, hey kids, I don't believe this, but I'm going to continue to teach it just because it's in the standards and it's my job. Mm-hmm. You don't see people doing that are on the unrighteous side that are like, yeah, I don't believe in creationism, but I'm going to teach the Bible's true. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen. We're never forced to teach that the Bible's true. We're forced to teach that it's not true. And it doesn't seem that dark. It seems like, a lot of people agree on this, and it's science. Well, we started putting the science to the test, and we went to it with the approach that we're just going to prove all things. We're not going to be biased and say, you just got to believe this because the Bible says it. We're going to really put it to the test. And the amount of information we have uncovered is mind-blowing because we do biblical earth science, like a geocentric-based science, like not the Big Bang, heliocentric model, everything exploding outwards at 500,000 miles per hour. Like the reason we feel stationary right now is because we are. But, they tell us there's all these relativity type of lies they've had to create. And man, it's just one lie on top of another. But our Bible is a science textbook and a history book. It's amazing. Like the prophets, the things they spoke of, what blows my mind is we find it with science in recent times. Like there were so many prophets that talked about the four winds of the heavens, including our Messiah. He talked about a gathering together when you're gathering people using the four winds of the heavens and angels to help gather his elect. Mm. And so many witnesses mentioned that. And I thought, four winds, there's got to be something to that. Well, you look it up, there's four what they call jet streams up above us, right? Yep. They're moving at like 200 miles per hour above us, or 150, 200 miles per hour, really fast up above us. And they're moving in a direction they're actually beating the Earth in its rotation. They're going the same direction, but there's 4 of them. They weren't discovered until like the 1920s. And they were in prophecy thousands of years ago, you know.
How did they know that in the Bible? Through God?
Yeah.
Who would he have told?
Yeah, well, it's cool because in the book of Enoch, it actually describes where these winds come from. It says they're in the portals of the heaven. They're coming out of the heavens. And so you have the firmament up above us with these portals in it, because he's giving Enoch a tour of creation. And he says, oh my goodness, there's these portals. They come from what we would call the south, like Antarctica, from that area. Mm-hmm. But it's the outer edges of the earth. And so whenever they hold back heaven so that it doesn't rain, or shut up the heavens so that it doesn't rain and all this stuff, those portals are blowing, and their blowing is help bringing in rain and snow and all these different things, the 4 winds included, because there's 4 portals, and they're blowing, and they're making these 4 little jet streams. And so Enoch talked about them. And when you go to the south, that's where our fastest winds are. Our fastest winds come from the south. And so that's why you can look at hurricanes. Hurricanes, when they venture northward, they can go really close to the North Pole. They never go close to the South Pole. There's like, it's like 1,500 miles further. They don't really go that far. They never go that direction. They're always going north, further north than they go south. And so, when I first started teaching earth science, it was so simple. We simplify it. We say the Coriolis effect. We get a globe, and we get I think it was a little wet erase marker, and I'd spin it and draw on it and say, that's how your winds move in the south. That's how they move in the north. It's the Coriolis effect. That's it. Seems simple, right? And we do that with a lot of things in school. We simplify, and we don't give the whole picture. We do that with tides. We talk about tides changing and how it happens because of the moon, and it's very easy to understand. You got your high tides, you got your low tides. Well, I started looking into that last year too, and nothing matches the model of creation that I was supposed to teach. Everything matches the geocentric version. We don't even have the same amount of tides on the West Coast as we do on the East Coast of the U.S. You go to other places, it changes. The number of tides changes throughout the entire world. It's not the same. It's not an even scenario like it should be, and you would have a moon lifting trillions of tons of water, trillions of tons, lifting it 3 feet higher,
Why do they say, what is the conventional wisdom of why the moon brings in the tides?
Yeah, they say it's the moon's gravity. And so you say, if this is the globe right here, the moon's over here, it's going to be pulling a giant bulge of water out over here.
Wow.
The problem is, they say it's just the gravity. The gravity skips everything else, but it mostly gets the water, and we're, mostly water, but it lifts it 3 feet. That's a pretty high jump. The other side, though, the problem with that is on the other side of the globe, they say there is another bulge. The moon's over here pulling it this way. There's another bulge over here. What causes that one? And they say it's inertia. Inertia causes it. So now you have 2 bulges of water on a rotating globe, and we're spinning through it, they say. When in reality, there's 2 bulges for a reason. And I didn't know this until I started Creation Standard. That's the name of the program we have. But when we were doing our lessons on that, I found out that everything in this world is impacted by a magnet. I always thought you had something that's magnetic and something that's not magnetic. That was it. I found out all things are impacted by a magnet. Water, us, we are at a point to where, with technology, that we can levitate animals with magnets. And I didn't know that. They've done that already. It's already been done. Levitating things. We're called diamagnetic. We are repelled by a magnet. So if you had a really, really strong magnet and say this was floating on water, and you put the strong magnet to it, this is not metal at all, just water in here. This would actually push away from the magnet because water's diamagnetic. I didn't know that.
What's diamagnetic mean?
Yeah.
The opposite?
It's weakly repelled. And so it's kind of like when you get the magnets the same size and they kind of push away from each other.
One's positive, one's negative.
So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like this is now pushing away from the magnet. So it's weakly repelled by it. It's not a strong repelling.
Just very, very weakly.
Yeah, it's very subtle, but you can detect it if you put a cylinder of water on a little styrofoam boat and get a really strong neodymium magnet and put it next to it. It's going to float away. And so it's really cool seeing these experiments and then seeing that they levitated mice, they've levitated frogs, levitating living organisms with magnets. They look like they're just floating around.
Real heavy, real strong magnets?
Yeah, they're called Tesla magnets. Like they're super duper strong. And so but it doesn't hurt the living organisms. They live after that. They go on and it's like, okay.
Wonder what makes a magnet real strong.
Yeah, getting it colder, which is interesting because moonlight is colder
Yeah.
than moon shade. Which
So
is
so
the
a
opposite
moon
of the
could
sun.
be a magnet.
It's somewhat of an electromagnetic effect, I believe, because if there's a pushing effect, and now imagine if you take a strong magnet and you put it near water, and you put something reflective with like grid lines behind it, and it reflects onto the water, and you put the magnet down, you can see the water dips down, and it creates two humps. Just like we have with our tides. We have a bulge here and a bulge here on the globe Earth model, but if you just flatten that out and put a moon above it, it matches perfectly because they say we have tidal lag, and that's another thing that ties into it. If you have a moon over here and there's a bulge sticking out of water, allegedly, the bulge is actually in front of the moon. The moon's lagging behind it.
Because it's pushing.
Because it's actually pushing down on it, not
Yeah.
pulling up on it. So how can it be
pushing up the edges.
Yeah. Instead of lifting with gravity before it gets there, gravity is lifting it up before it gets there, and so there's what's called tidal lag. And you have to have all these weird theories and animations, and all the animations don't do it justice because they're just showing you two different tide changes, one on each side of the globe, when we have different numbers of tides all around the entire globe. When you look up how many different ones there are, the diurnal, semi-diurnal, all these different things, and it's fascinating because it ties into biblical cosmology, and I didn't even know it. I always thought it was like a globe-proof, growing up, the tides, and it's because we're
I
rotating.
wonder if there's more answers in the Bible that we don't, that we haven't, looked at in that way. Maybe some people have.
Yeah, there's things that, I'm talking like I get in tears when I'm reading this stuff because if you separate science from the spiritual reality that we have an intelligent designer, it gets so boring. When we're just random, evolved amoebas, like they tell us that nothing created everything, right? That the earth we live on was just a piece of the sun that broke off, and now it's covered with water. We don't know how, Like you said last time, I guess the water, when it was getting shipped to the earth, it like skipped the sun, so it didn't put the sun out,
Yeah.
Like it just went around it. But somehow we got water. Nobody knows how we got water. We broke off from the sun. I never look at the sun with my P1000 or P900 and go, man, that looks like a rock covered with water could break off of that and sustain life. It just doesn't seem plausible, but that's what we're told we live on, and we're moving 500,000 miles per hour. But when I was looking into those different scenarios, and like you said, more things in the Bible that were missing, things like the four winds, that's something pretty big. But the prophets, look at what they were saying. They talk about being grafted into a family, after the Messiah resurrected, spreading the gospel message to the rest of the world. You have an analogy used as us being grafted into an olive tree. And people that aren't familiar with grafting don't realize it's not a natural process. You have to actually know what you're doing. You have to remove one branch, take another branch from another tree, and actually implant it into the existing branch that was there. Mm-hmm. So you're bringing it to a tree that has existing roots. It has strong roots. It's going to give more nutrients to this new branch coming in, right? When you're grafting it in. And so the olive tree was the tree that our Father chose to use in that analogy. And what's cool about that is that when you're grafting in, it has to be of the same kind, right? So you can't just take an olive tree and an orange tree. You have to have the same number of chromosomes for it to be successful long term. Mm-hmm. And us, as humans, we have 46 chromosomes in each of our cells, except for our reproductive cells, which were designed to have half. That way, two halves can make a whole. And so your body's making, as a factory, as a guy, millions every day, half of your genetic information right there, And so, but you have 46 in your body cells. Well, let's look at the olive tree that we're grafted into. Out of 73,300 known species of plants, it's one of only two that have 46 chromosomes. And
What's the other one?
The other one is the ash tree. And so that's amazing to me. It's one of two. Mm-hmm. He could have chose 73,300 other species of trees, chose the olive tree. And it has the same amount of chromosomes as we do. And to me, that was like confirmation that our Father knew about chromosomes, which it was his creation, right? He's going to know about it. We didn't discover chromosomes until the 1800s, And so for that to be put in there like that, it couldn't have been like, oh, somebody just realized that and added that later. No, that's in manuscripts from thousands of years ago talking about the olive tree. It was the oil of the olive tree that used was used to light the temple, the lamps and stuff. So, and it took
And the
46
first thing
years.
Noah saw was the
Yes.
olive branch.
Yeah, it was
or the
an
bird brought him the olive branch.
Exactly. So it's so significant. It was, the bird bringing in the olive branch. It's not a random detail.
What was the bush that was burning for Moses? That wasn't an olive tree, was it?
I don't know. That'd be interesting to see if there was a description somewhere, because that would be cool if it was.
Because they lived to be what? How many years old? Olive tree.
Oh, there's some that are like almost BC, I think, and their root systems grow like in weird ways. They kind of like just move all around in all these different directions. Mm-hmm. It's not a straight up and down tree, and that's kind of like our family tree in the past. When you look back to where everybody came from, all these winding paths and turns, and green and black olives grow on the same tree. I always thought it was just you have a green olive tree and a black olive tree.
It's just one of them's what, more riper? Or
yeah,
what?
One of them's more ripe. The black olives, I believe, are more ripe, which is another proof of intelligent design. He color-coded the fruit that these trees are growing, and these trees are growing without eating dirt. I always thought when I was younger, trees are eating dirt. You give them dirt and you give them water and they eat it and they grow. But if trees were eating soil, they would be sinking down into the earth as they grew upwards. There would be just caverns everywhere. But the biggest tree in the world weighs over 2 million pounds. And when you weigh the dirt, which scientists have done this in recent times, you get a tree planted in some soil. But before you do that, you weigh the tree, you weigh the soil. Wait a couple years. Weigh the tree, weigh the soil. The soil has the same weight, but the tree could put on 150 pounds. And people are like, what are these plants eating? Yeah. We kept it in a wheelbarrow. What's it going around like? Was it eating bugs out of the air?
What is it eating?
It's eating sunlight, air, and water.
And turning that into
anything. Food, oranges, bananas, we can't take technology to make what they make. They're making oxygen as well that we need. And our Father made them on day 3 of creation. He took and made that specific, plants first. There was an order, right? Mm-hmm. And we had the breath of life when we were made. Plants were made before the sun was made. They were made on day 3. The sun didn't come and be placed in the firmament until day 4. And so he made them, and they had his light. That was it when he made the plants. And they were using that to start out their reaction. It was a reaction that's still going on to this day.
Do you think the days were like we know it was 24 hours, or was it?
Yeah.
Or do you think it was not that literal?
I used to have a theory, but now I've changed my mind on that it was like 1,000-year periods. Mm-hmm. But it's actually literal days. But the way the Holy Spirit works, there is a speed aspect to it where it's not just stuck to normal speed like we are. Like Samson, when he took out 1,000 men, you could give me all the strength in the world. I can't take out 1,000 men even if I could bench press 900 pounds, right? Mm-hmm. Unless I'm really fast. Mm-hmm. And the Holy Spirit, when it came on Samson, I don't think when he had that jawbone, he was just like, real strong. They would get him in the back while he's hitting somebody in the front. Yeah. I think he was just so fast. And even Elijah outrunning the chariots, like being an older man outrunning these chariots at this long distance when they're running with their horses getting pulled and he outruns them. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the Holy Spirit, we limit it to just super strength and things like those miracles in the Bible, but there's a speed aspect where I think he was creating things so intricately and so fast and seeing it, speaking it into existence, like we can't even fathom how masterfully that process was, that whole 6-day process. But when he made what you're talking about with those 1,000-year periods or those different periods of time, when he told Adam, you'll die the day you eat of the fruit. And I remember thinking, well, he ate it and he didn't die that day. But the serpent said he wouldn't die, so the serpent must have been kind of right. You just kind of think, how did that serpent know that he wouldn't die? What's going on here? Well, I was reading the book of Jubilees, and it says it was spoken based on time in the testimony of the heavens. When you read Genesis in chapter 2, right after you read chapter 1, it talks about the seventh day rest. It says, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created. It was created in 6 days. That's the generations of the heavens and earth. And there's a 7th day rest. Right, and the book of Jubilees says when Enoch died, he died at 930 years old. And it says he did not complete, because 1,000 years are as a day in the testimonies of the heaven. It says he did not complete that day. So he died in that day, according to the testimony of the heavens, which is right there in Genesis. It says these are the generations of the heavens and the earth. Not the days of creation. It says the generations. And so right now, we're at the end of the 6th millennial day, I believe, according to the timeline calculations people have done. So we're approaching a seventh day of rest, which I believe is going to be the millennial reign. But before that happens, you're going to have some deceptions. And right now we're at a time where we're seeing major deceptions. We're seeing aliens on the news, UFO talks on the news. Congress is talking about UFOs. Congress is talking about aliens.
Tim Burchett's talking about it.
Yeah, it's these
By
people.
the way, he may be coming on here in a few weeks.
Okay.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah. We are really living in an era where people can get out different messages, and where so much is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bizarre, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I mean, even talking about these UFOs that are bending space and time and passing through trees and stuff.
Yeah.
Does that relate to anything that you're talking about, or is that another thing?
Yeah, it's all spiritual. Like the lies of Revelation that they tell us, because it says the unclean spirits are deceiving the kings of the earth, right? And so people that and that's the hard part about it, because it's so easy. You're supposed to pray for your leaders and pray for people and hope that everything can be better so that you can be better. But it's all based on them deceiving us about a threat from above, because originally they're going to have their false Messiah come first. Once that happens, and once people are buying into that, because it's going to be very convincing. The miracles, the things we're going to see are going to seem so real. But it's stuff we've read about. And then it's going to be followed, I believe, by the threat from above, which, Armageddon is what a lot of people refer to that as, the return of the Messiah. And so that's going to be so big. They're going to put all their energy into deceiving the entire world. So now we have, all these united world powers, and they just had an operation. It was called Operation Steadfast Defender, where they took 90,000 plus soldiers, tanks, ships, all these different war fighting equipment to the area near Armageddon, near that place. And they did a drill where they said, this is just a practice, just in case there's a near-peer threat. They're already starting to get these things together and practice for scenarios of some sort of threat, right?
From where?
It could be anything, but they're just practicing, kind of like Event 201.
Maybe it could be that thing that's headed that way, that meteor.
Yeah. Three-Eye Atlas?
Yeah, the Three-Eye Atlas, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because Atlas was actually a deity that they said was holding up the firmament. That was the name, that was where he came from. And not the world, I always pictured the world. That was a false image that came about later. He was actually holding up the firmament that's talked about in creation with all the sun, the moon, the stars are placed inside of. And so his punishment, which if you read the book of Enoch, he wasn't punished by these other demigods like they talk about, the giants of old, all that Greek mythology and stuff is based off, I believe, the clash of the giants, which happened before the flood, and there were a lot of them. I mean, this was an event. It's a time, our Messiah said it's going to be like the days of Noah at the end. They were corrupting all flesh and crossbreeding creatures, which I was always taught, that's impossible. We can't cross organisms and have hybrids and do all this stuff, and that's just how I was taught in school. And I found out it was illegal to do that. Now it's legal. Now, I think in Japan, they passed a law in 2019 or something around that time that you can now make human-animal hybrids and let them grow to completion. Before, it was actually, I correct myself, it was legal. You just had to destroy the embryo at like 14 days or something. And so now they're able to grow chimeras, human-animal hybrids.
Chimeras?
And yes, they've already done it. They've done a human-pig hybrid, which is just pure, just evil, Human-pig chimera. And you can look it up. It's a guy named Juan, what's his, I'm trying to remember his name, Juan Carlos. It's a big name. But the guy that did the human-pig chimera, I think you can just type in human-pig hybrid or something. It'll pull up a picture of the actual embryo. The thing has like hooved feet and like human-looking hands. And it seems like something that would be AI created.
How old would this thing be?
This was done in recent years, so if they let it keep growing, it'd be a baby, toddler.
So you're saying they've
I don't know if they've let it grow to completion or destroy it. They don't say. It's like, here it is, and we're doing it for studying the effects of things on embryos so that we don't have to use real humans for trials. I'm like, you're using a half-human,
to
hybrid
get the
here.
trial.
So it's like, we're testing it on that thing, not a real human. But I'm like,
So
that's
they're
even
they're
worse.
they're putting these eggs together
Yeah, I don't.
way before, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing this, but because chromosomes are a big deal. Like I was saying earlier, chromosomes matching up is a big deal, and I think there's only like a couple or a few animals that have the same chromosomes that we do, 46 chromosomes. And if you look at one of them, it's called a blue bull, and it's an Asian antelope. And this thing has those horns that look like your stereotypical devil horns, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, that's creepy because it does. It's a
Yeah.
creepy looking creature. So the hybridization of man and beast was going on pre-flood, and that's why we needed everything to be wiped out. The fallen had taken wives. Genesis says the sons of God took the daughters of men. It doesn't say the sons of men took the daughters of men. It says the sons of God took the daughters of men, which were the angels, the watchers that bound themselves. They were the first to really take a secret oath and bind themselves with an agreement. Like if one of us goes down, we're all going down. We're going down together. We're going to corrupt all flesh. We're going to carry out our will essentially on this earth, and we're going to teach all these secrets to our beloved creations, which would have been the Nephilim. And so they taught them all the things that they knew.
They taught the Nephilim?
Yeah, they taught the giant offspring. There was, and this.
Oh, so the Nephilim was the giant offspring.
Yeah, they were the giant offspring. Yeah.
So the Nephilim didn't come down and mate with the women of men.
Yeah, I don't know if they could have, but
the son, you're saying
Yeah.
it says the sons of God
yeah.
mated with the women of men and
Yeah.
created the Nephilim?
Yeah, they created them, and they acquainted them with plants and all these different things.
Are we the Nephilim?
Well, the Nephilim would have been their punishment.
You're saying they wiped out through the flood?
Yeah, their bodies died, but since they were half spiritual being, half human, they were like what you would call in folklore like demigods. And so they ran out of food. They got so big they ran out of food, right? And so people are serving them, giving them all their crops, and they're using up all the food of the land, and they start turning on people. They start eating all the animals. Then they start turning on each other because their appetite was so bad. So they were pretty harsh what they were doing, and eventually their punishment was to fight each other to the death. And the watchers had to actually watch this happen. That was their punishment too. It was like, you're going to watch this happen. And so now they like us to be punished by watching our own children fight in all these meaningless wars all the time, And
The watchers.
Yeah. And so their punishment was to be bound in chains in darkness under the earth. And that's why we have such I think, a big prison system today, because with God's law, there was no prison system. They want us to kind of be punished like their fathers were, the Nephilim. And in Enoch's vision, this is what's fascinating. In Enoch's vision, the giants were split up into 3 different categories. And this is in his vision, though, and he says, when he's being shown all this stuff, and the animals that represented the different races of giants were elephants, donkeys, and camels. And what I found interesting was that our earliest political parties, elephants, donkeys, and the prohibition camel.
Boy, that is weird.
And I was like, huh. And you think about it, if you're trying to divide people, that's your goal, right? You want them divided. Our Messiah says a house divided cannot stand. We have a house system that's divided, split right in 2. And like, we're going to make this work. If somebody gets the power, it's going to work. It doesn't matter if you've got 75% Republican, 85% Republican. If your house is divided, it's not going to stand. We're told that right in the Bible. And so here we are trying so hard, and everybody's trying to make it work. And it's like, why ain't it working? The Bible tells you, if it's divided,
because we're divided.
Work. Yeah. And so we are. And so we're trying to make a divided system work when our Messiah said, it's not going to happen. And we're dealing with consequences from the warnings of prophets like Samuel, who said, you don't need a king. And they're like, yeah, we do. We want to be like the other nations. We want to have a king. We want to have this symbol and this person. And so they get Saul, and then they get David. But Samuel warned them. He said, they're going to take the best of your land. They're going to take your taxes. They're going to do all these different things.
Didn't he go to God and say, hey, they're wanting a king.
Yeah.
We got to give them a king.
So yeah, he eventually did. Because you give in to the people, that's what they want.
Yeah.
And so you give them the warning, and then he gave in. And so they had their warning. They didn't listen, and we are dealing with the consequences. We're taxed more than the slaves in Egypt were. We are. I think it was probably 20%, and I thought, oh man, those poor slaves. But I would be giving up 31% of my paycheck when I worked in the school.
Well, and then more after you go all the way to spending $1, it's like 56%, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because by the time you buy something, that you have to pay tax on that.
Yes, you're taxed on that. And then your land tax, your school tax. I mean,
You
it's
get
so
about
many.
4 months of what you work for.
Yeah.
So but you're still on this flat earth thing.
Yeah, I'm still into biblical cosmology. And so that is where,
So who are you teaching?
right now, I teach students worldwide. We have
So
people.
it's not an accredited school, just
No,
their
it's not accredited.
extracurricular.
Yeah. It's
How many people do you have?
students, we go by the family, and some of our families have 5 people, but we have a couple, I would say almost 2. I need my wife, she's my secretary, to tell me how many families we have and do the math. I need to actually count that up. I mean, it's hundreds of students that I have, more than I had in
So do you give
in
a
the
class
school.
a week or what?
Yeah, well, every week I have 3 days where I do lessons. I do lessons Monday for Earth's Foundation because it's our biggest class, and it's just basic Earth science where we put it to the test. We look at what the world says, we don't ignore it, and we look at what the Word says, and we just keep testing both. We see which one at the very end is standing on top of the podium, And my goodness, I thought I had a lot of proof in my understandings of biblical proof versus world proofs, and it is just. I was mind blown. By the end of it, we now have a workbook that we've compiled everything into. So when they start, they have a workbook for that class. And it's just, there's so many different tests you can do. Everything. I mean, even rainbows. I thought, rainbows would just be something you can make them in the lab, right? Well, what do you need to make it in the lab? You need a reflective barrier, water, glass to shine it through. All the things that we have on the biblical earth. And my thought was, if there's like this dome right here, maybe not this high, it's going to be flatter, kind of like a contact lens. But in the North Pole in the center, I thought if it's based on the firmament shape, rainbows would be taller in the north than in the south. You get out towards the south, it's going to be a lower ceiling, right? And I started looking into it. My word, the rainbows up north were like just tall, like the St. Louis Arch. You go to Antarctica. I was looking at rainbows in Antarctica and South Australia, the flattest rainbows I've ever seen in my life. And we started compiling them. I was like, let's compile
So if we
these.
see a rainbow around here, we would be different shape
Yeah.
than if it was in some place far off.
Yeah, Canada
So when
and
they see a
Alaska.
rainbow, if their kids draw a rainbow, they're drawing them like this.
Yeah.
Our kids are about like this.
Yeah, it gets lower and lower
Yeah.
as you go south. And I'm like, I didn't expect that. I wasn't thinking, we're going to try to prove that. I just have the thoughts in my mind like, I wonder if there's a correlation. And there is. It also depends on the sun's location as well within the firmament and where the rainbow is. Is it in the morning? Is it in the evening? But
Ben, talking about the firmament, do you really believe that there's a ceiling above us?
yes, and I do. A lot of people.
What's it made of?
Well, it's got this unique property because our Father, when He made it, He spent all of day 2 of creation making it. And so a lot of people think it was atmosphere or it was this ice shelf that just exploded with the flood. The problem with that is that, it was holding up waters before the flood, right? It was holding up large amounts. So you need enough water to flood the entire world, to bring the waters above all the high mountains. And so if you need that much water, you need a strong barrier. That's going to impact our air pressure, kind of like if you're in a submarine.
So beyond
Yeah.
us is water.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Because in the beginning, He divided the heavens and the earth, right?
yeah, he divided light from dark. There was always this dividing, light from dark, and then waters from waters. And so on day 2 of creation, and it's unique because it mirrors conception. He said, "Let there be light" at the very beginning. I know I'm going all over the place, but these are some of the cool things we figured out last year. He says, "Let there be light" with creation, right? When you're conceived, when there's a spark of light, and that's been proven, and there's footage of it, you can look it up. At the moment of conception, there's a flash of light. Then your cells, when they start dividing, they don't just divide randomly. They eventually will grow and form a barrier that separates you from water. It's a barrier separating the waters from the waters, so to speak. And then for you to be delivered, it's kind of like the flood. The water has to break, right? Mm-hmm. Water has to flow. And it's just like the Red Sea crossing. It was mirrored right there in creation, the deliverance account, conception and all that, I feel like right there at creation. But yeah, there's waters up above it. And people think that it went away, but the floodgates closed after the flood. They didn't. They can't close if there's nothing there to close on. They would just say, "Oh, there's no firmament there."
So after the flood, it didn't just stop raining. Somebody stopped up the dam.
Yeah, and kind of like the bathtubs when you pull the drain out the bottom, the fountains of the deep then started sucking up that water. And it's a closed system, and the water, I feel like, could be connected. It can go all the way back up and surround. It doesn't have to...
Like a terrarium.
Yeah, like a terrarium type of thing.
Do you think the Earth's flat, or is it flat Earth, or is it dome-shaped?
Yeah, the firmament's dome-shaped, and underneath it, the elevation changes are unique. And the air pressure that we have, it's about 14.7 psi at sea level. It's only possible with a barrier. If you have an ever-expanding universe vacuum up above us, we couldn't have air pressure. We would die. And you can test that in the lab with vacuum chambers. And the reason we have the air that we do, and the reason it decreases as you go higher, is because right now, like, we're pretty low in elevation. There are miles of air up above us pushing down on us. We can't see it. It's invisible. It's hard to study air because you can't see it, right?
Yeah.
And so you just have to take somebody's word, like, okay, when I go higher, air pressure is going to change. We can experience that when we go up mountains. Our ears are popping because there's less air pushing down on us, right? Now, where this gets more scientific, because we're studying this out, is if, and I'm going under this, the Bible's true, there's a barrier up above me. When you get out towards Antarctica, towards the south, towards the outer edges, if the ceiling above us is lower, there's going to be less air up above us, right? Right now, let's say the firmament's 2,000 miles. I don't know how high it is. We can't really measure it. But let's say it's 2,000 miles high. If it's that high, there's a lot of air above us and a lot of space. Air can only stack up as high as the amount of air our Father put at creation. If He added 20 miles of air at creation, it's only going to stack up. It can't go any higher than what it already is. And it's going to create that pressure since there's a barrier and not a vacuum. And so that air pressure is going to be almost pretty even. But if the firmament gets lower down here on the outer edges, there's going to be less air above you.
Pushing down.
Yeah. And so the lowest air pressures in the world is in the south. The south is not like the north. The lowest air pressure, it's so low. And I used to say that planes don't account for curvature when they're flying. They actually have to, but it's not curvature of the earth, it's curvature of the firmament. Their required height, when you read the flight manuals, is about 10,000 feet when they get towards Antarctica, getting near it, 10,000 feet. You have to obey the flight manuals.
So they don't have them flying higher there?
No, it's like 40,000 feet in the north, 10,000 in the south. So it's like you're dropping drastically. You can't be way up there. You got to be down low. And I looked into why, and they say, well, they don't say anything about the firmament, but they say, oh, it's because of the air pressure. It's so low. Well, cold air should be changing the air pressure quite a bit, but it should be even in the north. It should be low air pressure here, low air pressure here, or high here, high there. And it's the lowest in the south. Absolutely far lowest air pressure ever. It's the driest place in the world. It's the coldest. It's the windiest place in the world. And it's not just the coldest by a little bit. It's the coldest by 35 degrees compared to the north. And the north is...
What if you kept going further? Would you get to the other end of the sloping dome?
Yeah, well, that's what Enoch talks about. Enoch sees these things. He sees mountains that are taller than any of the mountains on earth that we know of. He sees all these resources, which Admiral Byrd was talking about some of these resources, mountains of coal and things like that. But Enoch was seeing these giant mountains. And when you look at old maps, like the oldest world map, it's a Babylonian map. But they try to act like people back then were just dumb and they were just making stuff up. Mm-hmm. Well, that old Babylonian map, the oldest world map, shows once you go past the waters, giant mountains. About 7 or 8 of them on their map.
Past the Antarctica?
Yeah, past what we would, I guess, call Antarctica, yeah.
So Enoch went past... So we haven't gone past there?
No, we haven't. People have gone to it, and there was one account, and we did a video about it, called Sky Ice, where some guy said he was in the military, and they study these ice cores, and we always see them on like Nat Geo, where they're like, here's the Earth 2,000 years ago, we can see the weather. Yeah. When in reality, those little layers aren't layers of yearly rings. It's just changes from hot to cold. It can be weekly, it could be monthly. And these things are as high as they would be if the Earth was as old as the Bible says it is. So the 10,000-foot shorelines in Antarctica, Antarctica has the highest shoreline of all of the coast anywhere. It's the highest continent in the world, because it's our outer edges, right? And so that shoreline is as high as it would be, because it gets about 1 inch of snow per year. if you do the math, as high as it is now is as high as it would be with snow, because the snow is not melting. It just keeps stacking up every year. And so it's as high as it would be if the flood narrative is true. And so if it was millions of years old, the snow would be up to the clouds by now.
Do
but it's not.
pilots think they fly over the Antarctica?
Well, the 60th South parallel is where we can't privately explore past. We can explore past it, but not privately. We can go on any guided tour we want. We can spend $30,000. It's expensive to go there. So if I wanted to go there to take pictures, I can go where they allow me to go, and I could pay $30,000 or whatever it is now. Back in 2000 and I guess it was 17 when I was first looking into a trip, or 2018, it was about $40,000 for me to go, and I was like, I couldn't even, with a clear conscience, ask for that kind of money.
Yeah.
Just to fly and go where they're allowing me to go. You know, I would have to have special clearance to keep going, and they got so many weird rules in their Antarctic Treaty. Like if you go and you're backpacking through there and pulling a sled behind you.
Who owns the Antarctica?
The treaty has all these different countries that, and I don't know every single one of them, but it's the same ones that are usually sharing in the other lie, which there's a few lies that you have to agree on peacefully. If you're the world powers, the upper level. It's going to be peaceful. Everything else can be chaos. They don't care. You know, part of their slogan, you know, has to do with order out of chaos, which is their whole creation narrative. But the Antarctic Treaty is peacefully agreed upon throughout the Cold War and every war since, where they all said, no one's allowed to privately explore beyond this point. And we're all just going to hold hands and be nice about it. And they all did, and they've all done that ever since, where you're not allowed to do that.
Has anybody ever gone past there?
Yeah, people go past the 60th South parallel, but if you go over there, which somebody has in a fishing boat, and I think they were like near Australia somewhere, there's a documentary called Level. I think it's called Level. It's either Level or The Next Level. There's a part 1 and a part 2. But they documented these fishermen saying, we're just going to see what happens if we keep going south. And I was curious too, because everybody wants to know what's going to happen. Are they going? And a massive warship comes out and says, turn around now. A warship. Why do you need a warship out there, you know, guarding penguins?
And who's on the boat?
Yeah. And so
where they live.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about it is almost nobody lives beyond the 60th South parallel. Above the 60th North parallel, millions of people live. But almost no one, because it's so hard, it's such a rough environment. Why is it not?
What about if you go from the Antarctica and you go all the way across to the other side, there's another wall?
Yeah, it should be. If you keep going south, in my belief, if you just keep going somewhat straight, like if you're going from the north to the south, any trip in a straight line is eventually going to take you south. Mm-hmm. If you're circumnavigating the world or the globe, you have to turn. You have to go. Like imagine this is the North Pole right here, and I have a compass, and I don't want to circumnavigate. If I'm 10 feet away from the North Pole, I can circumnavigate just follow your compass east or west, and you're going to go in a circle. The further you go, it's just a bigger circle. And so it works the same on
What
both.
are they hiding beyond the wall?
I think there's parts of the deception from what's going to come next, things that we don't even know about, technologies we haven't even, like AI is kind of getting really convincing and all that, and I think that's baby stuff compared to what they've been working on. If they're working on it back there, it probably has to do with end-time deceptions. One theory my brother had, and I thought this was fascinating, is their time clock is based on the gospel message reaching all the nations, right? You know, as soon as it's been preached into all the world, then the end will come. Well, my brother said, what if? What if they're hiding like a nation out there that we don't know, that nobody knows to go minister to because we don't know it exists? And I was like, yeah, that's one thought, but what I think they really did was they just changed the gospel message, turned it into a Roman version so that people all think they're sharing the gospel, but in reality they're sharing a mixed with truth and lies Roman version. That's why we had inquisitions up until the 1800s. I think 1834 they finally stopped, but they were hiding the Bible from people, telling them this is the way you got to speak, and this is what you got to believe, or you're going to hell forever. And they're creating all these different lies that aren't true, and people started getting scriptures and finding out, oh my goodness, we're not doing this right, you know. And they didn't want that; they wanted this control, and I think that was a spiritual driving force.
But why do we think they're keeping us from going over there?
Yeah.
To prove the Bible?
Yeah, to prove the Bible. I mean, that would be the end all. If people could just freely go there and explore, and we could eventually see, okay, where does this all
end? What Enoch saw?
Yeah, and not just oh, look, I'm upside down. Now, you know, I've flown my plane, I'm upside down, and here I am, you know.
Well, they used to believe the earth was flat until what?
Yeah.
Was it Plato?
They believed it up until the early 1900s. They were actually teaching it in school in America in some places, and I didn't know that.
You mean like 18?
There was
Back when Gunsmoke was supposed to be that, that was
Yeah.
1860.
yeah,
So they in those schools, or maybe Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
That came later, didn't it?
yeah. It was
Or did
it was around the colony. They were kind of spreading out, going west. People still held on to that belief for a long time. And
That the Earth was flat.
And there was a lady, she was 103, that a man, Dave Weiss, interviewed. And she said, when I was little, I was taught in school that the Earth was flat. And she said, at some point it changed. And she goes, we just believed it because our teachers told us that. We didn't question it. We didn't have internet.
But
You know,
when did who was it? Which philosopher thought it was round, and they laughed at him because he thought it was
Yeah.
round.
Well, a lot of people give credit to Eratosthenes for measuring the curvature. Like, he was the first to really prove it, they say. Well, he was a Zeus worshiper, and he used obelisks, which were sun god worshiping devices. And the observation he had made, if he had completely ignored crepuscular rays, because crepuscular rays come out, let's say I have crepuscular rays splaying out this way from a local sun, this is going to have a different shadow, this cup is, than a cup over here, because the sun is close. And so you can do both. Even universities tell you can create both a flat surface version and a curved surface version. It just depends on the sun. Is the sun millions of miles away and larger than the Earth, or is it close and local? So you can do both. So it wasn't like a globe proof then. But the version of history that I was told was that most people believed it was flat, and they were scared to really travel out in the ocean because they thought they'd fall off of the edge. Well, I started studying Christopher Columbus. And that's something that totally blew my mind, because I was told that he proved it was a globe when he found America, or rediscovered America. And I believed that. I was like, wow, he discovered a place, and he didn't fall off of an edge. So you just go in a straight line, you end up where you started. That proves it's a globe. Well, I was reading about what people actually believed and how he got funding. He was quoting biblical texts that supported biblical cosmology, because the people he's trying to get funding from believe that. And so you had two groups. You had some that believed in the globe, but what they actually believed was that if you made it to this new continent, you wouldn't be able to get back, because the curved water would be such a mountain of curve you couldn't sail over it, even with the greatest winds. Yeah, they were afraid of curvature. Mm-hmm. No one ever mentioned being afraid of falling off of an edge, because the book he was quoting was the fourth book of Ezra, or two Ezras, which was in the original King James Bible, the 1611 version. And so since it's been removed, but when it was in there, it said that the firmament was founded on the waters, and that the world is divided into 7 parts. 6 parts are land, the 7th part's water. And he's looking at the bogus globes they had back then, and he's going, there's only 5 continents. And he shows his leaders, he says, there's only 5 continents on here. This book says there's 6. So I know if I keep going, I'm going to hit land. Because he believed in the Bible. He saw himself as somebody in prophecy, he actually brought Hebrew translators with him to help if you ran into some of the lost tribes that had been scattered. He wanted to be able to talk to them. So he brought Hebrew translators with him. This guy believed in the Bible. And so
Columbus.
Yes. And I didn't know that. I thought he was just this brave explorer who debunked flat Earth. And
That killed people when he got here.
Yeah. And so, he was actually, he was a brave explorer, but he wasn't the first person to circumnavigate the world. He just went, from Spain to the U.S. He didn't even, or actually almost South America. Like, he was on his little journeys back and forth. And, he was battling people that were afraid of curvature, not falling off of an edge, because they believed the firmament was founded on the waters, and that it was like a tent. The heavens were spread out, just like Isaiah said, spread out like a tent, like curtains, basically. They're like a tent to dwell in. And so Earth is his footstool, God's footstool. It's not moving. It's not a roller coaster. It's immovable. And that's what they believed until, recent times when they really started adding to the model. I mean, it's changed since I was a child. When I was a child, it was just a flat solar system spinning around, and now it's whirling in a spiral and 500,000 miles per hour. And
it's going that way.
Yeah. And the stars are staying the same. Yeah. Polaris never moves. And
how they figure that the stars, if we're, I don't know which side of the fence I'm on, but I know that if I walk out, if the Earth's spinning that fast, I ought to feel some more wind than I do.
Yeah, it would be pretty even. Yeah, all the time.
And why are the stars in the same spot?
Yeah, You don't ever see the ones, yeah.
Wouldn't they be moving or?
Yeah, because if you're here, let's say this is or let's say.
I mean, when I get up in the morning, they're going to be. Are the stars spinning too? Is that?
Well, with their model, everything's kind of like, and that's the thing. If we're going around the galaxy that fast, everything kind of has to be moving with us, or it would change. And so it kind of almost puts us at the center, anyways. But yeah, because like let's say this is the sun right here, this cup, and this is the Earth. Right here where the Earth is, 6 months later, you're going to be over here on this side of the sun. You're not going to see stars over here. You're only seeing stars this way.
Yeah.
When you're over here, you're only seeing stars that way. You never see stars towards the sun. But you would be seeing a different night sky 6 months from now. And so I always encourage people for 6 months straight, just go look up at the sky. Try to factor in, time. They're going to change your time, so it makes it more tricky to do it at the exact same time. But go out and see if you don't see the same stars. And Polaris doesn't move. And there's even a constellation on Orion's belt that stays on the celestial equator all year long, even though the sun and moon are supposedly going up and down with season changes and are wobbling tilt. But what I found out was that the sun and the moon, they don't move up and down at the same rate. Sometimes the sun will be moving down south because of our tilt, but the moon's moving north because of our tilt. It's going in two different directions at the same time because of the same tilt. It makes no sense on the globe model, right? But I'm telling you, the Book of Enoch gives you some descriptions of how the sun and moon move inside the gates, which the firmament would be multi-layered on that model. I think Paul talks about one of his friends going to the third heaven, as if there's like a third heaven. He called the firmament heaven. So if there's multiple layers, there's gates for the sun and the moon, and so it changes with each season. And they based that on their start of the new year, where the sun was at. And they could use sundials. All the priests would have like a sundial, and they could keep track of where the sun was at in its gates. And it was based on that Enoch math, and it was the most accurate sundial of antiquity that they had with the people that kept the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so they knew what time of year it was based on the Enoch math that they were using, because they had the Book of Enoch in their scrolls that they kept.
So the Book of Enoch was in the
it was
the caves that they found,
the Qumran caves.
The Qumran caves.
Yeah, so it was interesting.
What was that? The Book of Jubilee in there?
I think so. Yeah, Jubilees.
They
Enoch.
said Isaiah was word for word.
Yes, it's amazing, and it's a little different too. Like there's, and I'm finding out there's different manuscript families. The Masoretic is a newer manuscript that's used for like the King James Bible and things like that. Now the Septuagint, we've been studying that out lately. It's based on the one that the Hebrew scholars had put into Greek, which was a common language at the time, which is BC. And so it's the oldest manuscript, but it's just the Old Testament. And because it was around before the New Testament was written.
They're going to keep going till they confuse us on which Bible to read.
Yeah, it's good to look at all the different translations. People always ask me which one's the best translation.
Because Enoch's not in the Bible.
Not in modern day translations, no. And that's the thing about it.
When did that was it in the what do they call that the canon?
Oh, the canon? Yeah, no, it wasn't. And it's actually, if it was in the canon, it would go against its own prophecy, because at the very beginning of the book it says, this book is not for a generation right ahead. It's basically for a generation to come in the last days. And now we're seeing that book make a comeback. And I
hear it all the time.
Wow, yeah. So I'm like, It says it's for a generation at the end. It says, I'm not even speaking to this generation. I'm speaking for a distant one in the last days. And now we're seeing it, and it shows us where those unclean spirits came from, what they were doing.
What exactly does Enoch say? How big is the book of Enoch?
I forget how many chapters. A friend of mine has a real good version on, you can get on Amazon, called, it's just the number one Enoch, or first Enoch. Not to be confused with second and third Enoch.
So there's three Enochs?
But those are, the second and third one aren't part of the first one. They were just found at different times, and they're like, I would guess you would call them knockoffs, or not the real thing. They're not related to the first one.
Are parts of it the same?
Well, I compared first Enoch with the Dead Sea Scrolls, because there's a copy that came out of Ethiopia, I think. And I looked at what that one said compared to the fragments in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it was very accurate. I mean, like almost just word for word, from the Dead Sea Scrolls. So I'm like, what are the chances that somebody in Ethiopia would have that and it would match the Dead Sea Scrolls that they didn't even know of back then?
Right.
So if they brought a fake copy, it shouldn't match the Dead Sea Scrolls. It would be totally different, but it matches.
So what does Enoch? Summarize the book of Enoch?
Oh my goodness! It's like it's like a movie when you read this book. It makes the rest of the Bible make sense, right? Because we have little things that we see in the Bible, like demons talking to the Messiah, knowing who he is, knowing that they have a judgment coming, and it's like, where did demons come from?
Yeah, because we don't have any of those.
There's no.
All we have is questions.
Yeah, and Jude talks about things, and they quote Enoch, and they talk about the fallen, the watchers being bound. Well, where's that in canon? It's not. You read the book of Enoch that they were familiar with, and it tells you where the fallen were bound, why they were bound.
Where did they come from, the Watchers?
The Watchers, well, they were from heavens. They were from the heavens above, and they were sent here for a task to watch and kind of take care of mankind. Because messengers and angels, they have different tasks that they do throughout the Bible, and theirs was you're going to just watch over, you know. And I guess they had the ability to sin and to actually go against our Father's will. They had free will.
So they were fallen angels at that point.
Yeah. So then they messed up, and so
wonder what they were thinking.
Yeah, it sounds like that you had the ringleader, and that would have been what I guess a lot of people call Satan, but the ringleader saying, you know, this is what we're going to do.
We're going to take over?
Yeah, and now the book of Jubilees, because it goes hand in hand with Enoch. There's two good ones to read together. It talks about the post-flood world, because Enoch tells you the unclean spirits came from the Nephilim. When they died, when they clashed with the Titans or giants happened, their spirits became disembodied spirits or demons, right, on the earth. And so that's why they're so malicious. They were eating each other and mankind. Now they're deceiving mankind using the same wisdom they had from their fallen parents. You know, their parents taught them everything. And so people were always desiring to learn those secret things even after the flood, because they carved everything in stone back before the flood. They carved a lot of things in stone. One of Noah's grandchildren finds some of these writings and is like, ooh, this is some secret wisdom here. And he sins on account of that. And so you see sin coming back into the world by people who carve into stones and break apart, you know, the meanings of what they were telling them there. And so stone masonry was a big thing. Tower of Babel, pre-flood. And so now masonry being something that's in, you know, Freemasonry being in every single country, every single city. It's one of those things that's worldwide. And somebody said this to me. They said, it's interesting because what kind of, you know, the Messiah is referred to as the stone that the builders rejected. And what kind of builders use stones? And it's Masons that use stones, you know. And not that all Freemasons are bad. It's one of those higher up as you go, like 99% would probably be okay, you know. They don't know. But the Bible tells us, Isaiah 29 says, woe to them who keep secret counsel and think the things they do are in the dark, you know. And when you look at where all of our information came from, it came from evolution, the old earth lie, all those different things. The old earth lie, the guy was in the Canongate Lodge. His name was James Hutton, and he was also a fellow of the Royal Society, which is a secret society. And then Charles Darwin, his grandfather, was in the same lodge, same secret society. So is Charles Darwin. He creates evolution. Lies that need each other. You know, old earth needs, or evolution needs old earth.
What's old earth?
It's like saying that the Bible's not true, and that's what they were saying. It was like in the 1800s. This is not a long time ago, or 1700s, when they started creating this. The Bible's not true. The earth is old, and these people are going to give us the wisdom. It came out of the UK, the London, which was originally a Roman province. But they sat down at the same time, creating the old earth and evolution, the two guys, Erasmus Darwin and James Hutton. And so they used secret societies and secret councils, creating these lies that Isaiah in chapter 29 says that these people that keep secret counsel, they're turning things upside down. It's basically like the pottery telling the potter, you didn't make me. It's the same thing. You know, imagine you just made this nice pottery. You're like, oh, I worked so hard on that. The pottery turns around and goes, you didn't make me. I came from stardust. You know, like, and that's what we've become. We've become people that are like, we're not intelligently designed. We came from stardust, you know, and we evolved from chickens that came about after the dinosaurs went extinct. You know, like we have this crazy.
Why did God choose Enoch?
I think because he was right. He was a righteous man, and he was going and spending time with him. And
he was prior to Noah?
Yeah, he was around Noah's time, and he was going, and he was a righteous man, and the whole world is corrupt except for Noah and his family. So he's like a precursor to that, and he's witnessing it, and he's actually the one going. He's being sent by God to talk to the fallen, and saying, "Look, this is your punishment." And they were mortified because they're like, "Man, we've done messed up. We are going to be punished. We don't have this free range. This isn't our creation." And so they're still bound to this day, but there's a time in Revelation where, the seals are breaking and things are going to happen.
How did Enoch die?
It says he was taken. Some people say he didn't die. Some people think he's going to become one of the two witnesses, him and Elijah, and they have all these theories. I think the two witness the two witness scenario is going to be more like like two groups of peoples witnessing, but it could be two literal people as well, because the plagues match a lot of what Moses and Aaron were doing, and they would have been similar to like two witnesses, and Aaron's rod was preserved in the Ark of the Covenant, and it was the first rod used to start those plagues. And the unclean spirits at work back then, they couldn't undo our father's plagues. They could only try to mimic them, but they never could undo them, which is pretty dumb. You got to imagine.
I'm curious. I don't even know how they mimicked them as well as the Bible said they did.
Well, Jubilee says they actually were allowed to use unclean spirits, demonic powers, to help pull these so-called magic tricks off. Because I thought the same thing. How could you plan for a staff turning into a serpent unless you knew they were going to do it?
Yeah.
Keep those staff serpents handy in case he does that. Like, you wouldn't know that was going to happen.
Do you think that God will give us a pass for not knowing?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, because I've not got the Book of Enoch and read it.
Oh, yeah, and see, that's the thing. It's not like an essential, like, salvation thing.
So there's no plan of salvation necessarily in Enoch?
Well, there is. He talks about the Messiah. He talks about him beautifully. He is shown the Messiah before the crucifixion. He says, who is this with the Ancient of Days, this Son of Man? Who is this that I'm seeing that's with the Ancient of Days? Well, what's going on? And they're like, oh, this is the Son of Man who righteousness dwells, and basically he says he's basically for a purpose, he's going to be hidden behind him until his time comes, And so it's like, wow, he's up there. Like he says he was with him before the sun and the moon and stars were basically named and put in the firmament. Like, he was there with him at creation. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Do you think it's another person, or you think Jesus was God?
I think he was always his son. And Enoch, I guess, clarifies that, because there's so much confusion with that doctrine. Because it came about in Rome is where they really started changing the gospel message and persecuting believers and changing the Sabbath and doing things they really shouldn't have done. But the Trinity doctrine was one of those they created. And the Book of Enoch helps clarify that he was with the Father at creation. He was preserved for a purpose. If the unclean spirits knew what his purpose was, if he wasn't hidden that way, they wouldn't have crucified him. They didn't realize what was going to happen. Us being grafted in, him taking on that new high priest role, the power change where everything's now put below his son. They thought they would just take him out. The miracles are going to stop. People are going to just forget about this, and they're going to move on to worshiping false gods again. And there was such a major change, and that's why people were dying. They were being killed for what they now understood to be true. You're not going to go and do that for a lie. You're not going to go like, man, I really love this comic book. People are going to kill you for believing that. No, I believe it. If it's a truth, you're going to be willing to go to the grave for it. And so the Book of Enoch talks about that, the Messiah being hidden. And so it's really cool. And he actually shows you the generations of the heavens and the earth, and he lays it out in a 10-week prophecy, with each week being 700 years, which when you do the math, it adds up to 7,000-year period. And he tells you where we're at, right, in creation. And we are getting right close to that last chapter. Kind of like now how we see the seventh millennial day. I call them millennial days. We're getting close to that seventh millennial day, and the Book of Enoch lays it out real clear in prophecy. And I wouldn't have caught that. I just read it, and I'm like,
Is Enoch a hard read?
It's one that it's kind of like Revelation. You read it, and he's seeing visions and parables, and our Messiah always spoke in parables, and so he does a lot of parables. But you can see in the parables who's who. You can see Egypt. You can see the Red Sea crossing. You can see all these things in his parables if you understand. Egypt is represented by the wolves. And there's a funny one. They say it's a Mandela. The lion and the lamb will lay down together, and now they're like, no, it's the lion and it's the wolf and the lamb. And you're like, wait, what? I always thought it was the lion and the lamb, and people were like freaking out. But I'm like, well, it says the wolf now. And that,
a lot of people use
Egypt.
that verse. The lion will lay down with the wolf to indicate that the animals, our pets, will be in heaven.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think once death is defeated, I don't know what our Father has in store with, because it says we can't even fathom what it's going to be like. Like once the new heaven and the new earth gets here, we're not even going to remember anything beyond that. But there's a time coming where it's going to be unique. And I see our timeline so different now, because before, when I heard Revelation, I was always like, it seems like there's two judgments. Which one's coming? Where are we? It just seems so scattered. But it's really quite simple. The gospel of the kingdom coming, the message where it's always at hand. Because when you're alive, your life is short. It's always about 80 years away from you, the kingdom being at hand. Because when you die, and then there's the resurrection, the first one, not everybody's a part of that. It's not like every single person who's ever died is going to resurrect with the first one. They're going to resurrect the elect first. And there's going to be people trying to war against God Almighty. The prophets talked about it. Revelation talks about it. And so, but not everybody that misses out on that first resurrection is going to die. I didn't realize that. That first resurrection happens once if you're a part of that, you're blessed, because you're not going to taste the second death. That's the final punishment. It's not like people are going to be burning forever and reanimating and being tormented forever. The second death is going to happen after the 1,000-year period. And so once you have that first resurrection, the gathering together, they're going to try to war against God Almighty. Prophecy tells us where this happens, and it says our Father's feet touch down on the Mount of Olives. And so you have our Messiah coming, it says on a horse in Revelation, but his Father is sitting on a throne, right? So they're saying, save us from the wrath of the one on the throne, but you've also got the one on the horse too, so they're both coming back, which is interesting, because you have the trumpet of God. I always saw it as the Messiah alone, but he's coming with the host of heaven. There's a gathering and a harvest unlike anything that's ever happened before. And so preparing for that is a big deal. But once you have that and they try to war against God Almighty, of course, they're going to be wiped out. But there's going to be some that survive. There's survivors from the nations. And so when you have the kingdom set up where it's set up at, and the resurrected saints are going to be priests and reign with the Messiah there. And so that's for a period. But people are going to be coming to the camp every year, according to prophecy, to keep the Feast of Tabernacles so that their nation can get rain. So there's a unique thing with the stuff's going to be restored. People are going to be on a path for righteousness. They're going to be learning these things. And who knows if you're going to be teaching it if you're in the resurrected camp. Like you may be able to leave the camp, go teach, come back. I don't know how that's going to work. But then the enemy's going to be let loose yet again and deceive people to attack the camp, just like he did when there was the pillar of fire at Egypt. Hey, go after that. Look at our chariots, Armageddon. Go after them. Look at our army tanks. Look at our ships. Look at all the stuff that we have, and you're going to be able to see the enemy repeating that same exact trick over and over. But that last time is going to be his final stand when he's unleashed. It says after the 1,000 years and he's unleashed and able to go and deceive the nations again. Because during that 1,000-year period, there's going to be no kings of the earth. There's going to be one king, So it's like we don't have to worry about politics and parties and all that.
Why do you think God even created earth and man?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, does anywhere it says why he even did it?
Well, he repented of it after he saw how corrupt it got, and he was almost thinking, just start over. I messed up.
It just says that after looking down on man, he was sad or something.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, and I can't imagine, because we all have people we love us, and if you've ever had that experience where you've loved somebody so much and they've just said, I don't love you anymore, and they walk away, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing you can do about it, it is a heartbreak. When you're like, but I love you with all my heart, And that's how our Father, he experienced that with like, man, I created this creation that's has everything they need to be sustained.
Why did he do it though?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. He created them in his image, and to basically have people that carried out his will and loved him and knew him and didn't transgress what he said. But
where do you think he came from?
See, that's the thing. Yeah, that's what he was always, when you try to think of eternity, it can drive your mind crazy. And we used to try to do that when we were younger. My dad goes, don't try to think about eternity, because your brain just can't.
Well, have you ever read the book The 12th Planet by Zachary Sitchin?
No.
Well, it tries to explain where God came from. Zachary Sitchin, The 12th Planet. It tries to explain that.
Yeah.
And the Bible says God came from Mount Teman. It doesn't say where that's from or why. It just says, and God came from Mount Teman. And there's maps that had Mount Teman on it. So I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting.
We just have to say, God just take care of me? I don't know.
Yeah, we don't.
I mean, I don't. I don't even know all the questions, much less the answers.
And I think that's why his son told us, he said, the greatest in the kingdom are humble, like a child. He used a small child, like they're the greatest. Because they're like, who's the greatest in the kingdom? And he suspects them to go, these scholars here who have studied. It's like, no, the humble, the people that go, I don't know anything, but I'm going to do your will, and I'm going to figure out what it is to the best that I can while I can. And
like the Pharisees and the Sadducees or whatever.
They thought they were
the
greatest.
one group just went and said, we just don't know. Just forgive us.
Yeah.
I think I'm them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to be the humble. And so that's one thing we try to preach. And it's never about head knowledge. It's not about what I know or what they know. It's about what our Father is showing us in
Do you
these last
think
days.
that when you was talking about the civilizations, you said there were 6 what?
6 parts of the world. And so that would be like, I would assume 6 continents, but I could be wrong on that.
And so we've got how many?
We have 6, and there's the seas. And so
Okay.
gathering together, the waters would be the seas.
So you're saying that one guy found the 6th one being the Americas.
Yeah, being what was not on the globes back then, which...
Then we got to go back to where the people that were here in America before us. Boy, there's lots of questions in there.
Yeah.
Now this new thing, the simulation theory.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, let's think about this. We've heard evidence of people in the mid-1850s being taught that the Earth was flat.
Yeah.
Prior to that, they thought you just went off the edge. Now we say it's round. Well, you take 200 years from now, they'll say, nope, it's a simulation. Remember when they thought the Earth was round? Will they start saying this is a simulation?
Yeah, that's probably what they'll push, because once you see the...
Because they're starting to push that.
Yeah, and they'll try to make it seem that way. You'll start seeing a lot of synchronicities and things happening.
I'm seeing them now.
Yeah, you'll
It's
say
bizarre.
something and it just pops up on a billboard. You're like, ooh.
Like the Book of Enoch. I haven't heard that word so much that I've heard it in the last 6 months in my life.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere now.
Oh, yeah. Because I think it's for this generation. It's for this specific, and I think
unless we're in a simulation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ever think if there's somebody playing you or playing me?
Yeah. Kind of like the
We
Truman
got a
Show.
bad yeah.
Yeah, you watch the Truman Show. It does seem like that. And we were in D.C. and I was going there. We were on vacation. My son wanted to see the architecture, and I didn't want to go there. But we go, and I go to the Museum of Natural History, which is not natural. It's all fake history.
Yeah.
You start out, there's a petrified tree, and they're like, it's 200,000 years ago. And I'm like, petrification does not take long. The city of Venice is built on petrified trees, where they took regular trees, put them in the ground, spiked them into the mud and water.
And they're still there.
And they're still there. You wouldn't build a city on trees going, well, it's going to dissolve in a few years, but let's build this massive city. You know, they knew it was going to petrify quickly. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used that particular method. But water, large amounts of water, like a flood, can do that. And so, but yeah, you'll see so many things that seem like that it's like you're on the Truman Show, because we were there, and I remember seeing these people. I'm walking up the ramp, and I'd seen them at this other place, and I walked right past them, and they walked past me almost like background actors, you know? And
right.
And I was like, oh, there they are again. How'd they get in front of me? We just ran from there. We came here pretty quick. And then I told my son jokingly, I said, I think the government has agents following me, and I think it's these people. And I turn around and I look, and they had stopped going down the ramp as if they were following me, and they looked at me and they turned back around. I was like, that was odd. But I was going there with my camera to expose all
I have that happen
lies.
to me a lot, that sort of scenario.
No.
You know, me and my cousin always like these conspiracy theorists and stuff. And I said, okay, let's think of somebody we haven't seen in 30 years that we both knew.
Yeah.
But neither one of us knew them well. But we both knew who they were. And neither one of us can have talked to them for 30 years. And I said, every day, let's text each other that guy's name. Less than 2 weeks later, the guy contacts me.
Dang. Yeah.
I mean, that's weird.
That is, yeah. That is strange.
I mean, that's strange. So is it, maybe the demons are just trying other angles that we'll fall for now? Hey, they'll fall for the simulation this time.
Yeah.
Because they're more into the technologies. And
Yeah.
back then it was more just shapes and tangible things, and it's
Yeah.
flat, and now it's round.
Yeah, because I've heard so many people say, I'll think about something, I won't even say it, and then an ad will pop up with whatever I thought. And I've had that happen to me. And
I
you're
have
like,
too,
I just
yeah.
thought about it. How did that happen? But it's,
I mean, we're already past the point mentioning it comes up. So
Yeah.
now we're okay with it listening to. 5 years ago we'd said no, it can't listen to you.
Yeah.
But now we're past that. Now it's knowing what we're thinking. It's too coincidental.
yeah.
Too coincidental.
And that's the things they were doing back in Rome. They were learning from their people what, their patterns, what they do, and studying them. And they're studying us now. And they are so interested in all of our thoughts and what we do, so that we can easily be manipulated. You can divide us so easily. And I think we saw that in the last 5-6 years. The whole world getting divided over politics, the whole world getting divided over a pandemic.
They're divided over football.
Football. It's like, everything's a divide, and they want you to get in those different things, like get in the team spirit. What? The divided spirit, where you're divided against everybody in the whole country, Every state has their own team, every city has their own team.
We're all on the same team, really. We're all,
Yeah, it's ramping up. The deceptions are ramping up, and they require us to not believe.
And it's getting past what we can check.
Yeah. Yeah, because
you can't hardly check whether it came up on your phone because you were thinking about it. You can't check that.
Yeah.
So do some other checks.
Yeah.
Think about this and that.
Yeah.
But then you get into the matrix stuff, which is, I guess that's the simulation, right? Wouldn't that be the same?
Yeah, and they say kind of like we are stuck in this, or I know I was. I felt like I was in one of those hamster wheels, like I was working really hard, doing all these things, but I just felt like there's something out there we're not seeing. And I'm asleep, and I don't know what's wrong. I want to wake up. I feel like a zombie, and I feel like if I live my entire life like I've lived these last years, 30 years of my life, whatever, back when I was thinking this, that's just not meaningful. I haven't done anything. Nothing. Like, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I missing?
Where's
with creation?
the fight? Where's the fight?
Yeah. What are we supposed to be doing? And
did you wrestle in high school?
Yeah, I wrestled in high school, and I wrestled at UTC as well. So that was a life changer right there. That's actually what got me into the Father used that to help get me into teaching, because I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be a wrestler. I wanted to be a competitor. And then now I'm a teacher, and it's like that's all in it's like the old day stuff,
How do you relate wrestling to what you're doing now?
Oh, geez.
Or does it relate?
It does, yeah, because it's, the Bible says we don't wrestle against, flesh and blood, the powers of darkness. And that's what our fight's against. We're so focused on people and the left and this and that. It's like they've already divided us north and south. Now they've divided us left and right. They're keeping us divided. We need to be praying for these people who are lost, not attacking them. We need to be continually praying for these people and seeing them change and focused on bringing these people in, because it's a spiritual battle. And I'm seeing that now more than ever. I'm having so many people call me and say, oh my goodness, the spiritual warfare is real. And I'm like, yes, it's real. They want people that are doing these things, that are branching out in faith and putting themselves out there and speaking the truth. They want us to be under attack and feel like, oh, we can't do it. And, all this big technology and all these things that's happening, we just can't do it. And we're voiceless. We just need to give up. But that's what they want us to do. They don't want us to be unified and praying to the creator of heaven and earth and believing in his power. Because once we start doing that, things start changing. And it starts changing fast. And it's powerful. His power to heal and to destroy the lies and do all the things he's done in the past is still with us. He wants us to forget that, though. And one way to help us not have the faith that they had is to change creation, is to create the order out of chaos theory that they've made, where you have all this chaos and then order happens. And then we have this masterfully designed creation that was made by chaos that somehow goes against their law of thermodynamics, which says, no. When left alone, order goes to chaos, not chaos to order. It's never like that. We can never do what they say made us in the lab. And so it goes against their own creation narrative. But a lot of things do. Like we were talking about the Clash of the Titans, how they had to fight to the death. And I'm studying dinosaurs because with the mainstream everything, dinosaurs are pushed big time. You go to any science museum, what do you think? Space and dinos. That's the biggest thing. And my thought was, I just did a conference about this, a presentation about it, was if there was that sort of clash of titans where they fought to the death, you're going to find these massive bones, almost as large as this table, with cut marks.
Yeah.
And I said, I wonder if there have been any. So I'll look it up. Are there giant dinosaur bones with cut marks? And it's like, yes. And I'm like, why? It's like cavemen. Cavemen came along with rock stones, and they killed this creature that was over 24,000 pounds. And I'm like, wait a minute. Men 120,000 years ago with sticks and rocks killed a 24,000 pound giant organism and butchered it? It's enough meat to feed, 100 men for months.
24,000 pounds. That would be a 12 bobcats.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you could think about these weights because you're carrying these things around, all that weight. 24,000, trying to kill a...
6 in each hand.
Yeah. A grizzly bear weighs what, 450, 500?
Yeah.
And you can barely kill that with modern guns. If I said, here's you a nice gun, I might kill it, I might not.
You'd want to stand way off just at that.
Yeah. So they tell us these things.
So you believe you're against even the dinosaur theory?
Yeah, because it's designed, and you got to think if you were
that's calling for evolutionary thinking.
Yes, it pushes that. It reinforces millions of years ago, and that's all you got to say. And that's going, Bible's not true at all. Just saying that without saying it. It's like millions of years, and you keep seeing it, even though. They found soft tissue, red blood cells, all these things they find in the bones of these creatures that are supposed to be millions of years old. Multiple times they found soft tissue, probably hundreds of times by now. And those people don't get promoted. They get fired. Mark Armitage, you can look him up. He got fired.
Soft tissue.
Soft, squishy.
You mean like the guy that found all the mammoths? Remember the guy in Alaska?
Oh, yeah.
That found all
those giant, huge.
Yeah. He says he's got some soft tissue.
Oh, I believe it, yeah. And they'll say there was an ice age, and that's where these creatures lived. But if something, imagine you said 12 bobcats, 24,000 pounds. How much food you're going to need to eat? And they say, this creature lived in a tundra. Mm-hmm. What are you going to eat? Snow? You can't. You can't live off of snow. I couldn't live in a tundra. There's not enough food. But a 24,000 pound organism, and then all of a sudden, not only is he living and thriving, some caveman making fire, learning how to make fire out there is
sharpening a stick with a rock,
throwing a spear at him.
Yeah,
got him.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to butcher it and feed the whole family.
That thing could smell you before you even got.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. It was corrupted flesh. So either it was a giant of old, and that's why these bones, like they find bones 7-8 feet long, femur bones. Huge femur bone. It's by itself. Where's the other bones? Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, where's all these other bones at? Mm-hmm. And it says, well, we've never found a complete dinosaur skeleton because most of them have washed away by deposition. What's that? Well, that's the moving flow of water. Mm-hmm. So the moving flow of water washes away giant bones. What kind of moving water? What kind of water is going to do that? A worldwide flood. If I had bones as big as my couch and just a regular flood, they're probably not going to move very far. But a worldwide flood, all these bones are scattered everywhere. And if you're an unclean spirit, and part of those bones, that might have been one of your bones, you're going to want people to glorify it, put it in a museum, build another statue around it, because it's mostly plaster, all the things in the museums of dinosaur bones. But a lot of them were either dragons or just corrupted flesh because they had to grow their own food. GMO was some genetically modifying organisms, is what they were doing back then. It's what we're doing now. And when me and you were born, there were no GMOs in the grocery stores. Now it's like 80 to 90, probably 90% of our food or more is genetically modified because they're corrupting it again. And that's their goal. They're corrupting all flesh yet again. We're seeing it with the chimeras, the human-animal hybrids. They made a human pig, a human monkey hybrid. They're doing all sorts of things that they're not just publicizing it, though. You can look it up and go,
you think they'll do it with robots?
I think they're going to do something. I think AI right now is a big deal. I think it's using fallen technology. It's demonic, and people are talking to it just like you talk to a Ouija board or a psychic.
I catch myself. I caught myself the other night saying thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I've done that at the little ATMs. It's like, thank you for. And I'm like, oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
What?
Well, that AI is something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tricking people. It's deceiving me sometimes, and I think they're good. Now that that's rolled out, you're going to see more.
The only thing that I've caught it is in my business alone. I say, no, that ain't right.
Yeah.
And so and I'm thinking, well, if it's not right on mine, it's probably not right on some of this other stuff too. Yeah. So that's the only place you can do is test your own field.
Yeah.
that you know about.
Yeah.
But it is bizarre how it will. I had this. I drew a little house plan, and I took a picture of it, and I said, paint this house a 1957's popular color. And it came out with that colored house. Well, right there it is on the floor. See that on the floor?
Wow. Yeah.
It came out with that color. And then I said, do you have a green? And it said, if you'll give me the formula, and I gave it the YB242, I gave it all of that, and it spit out a green. It wasn't the exact green, but I think I might have had the formula wrong. So I'm going to double check the formula.
Wow.
But it's bizarre.
Yeah. It's overtaken.
How you going to compete with that?
Yeah.
How you going to compete with that with anything?
Yeah, and I think it's going to bring about a type of lawlessness, because that was one of the things, when you look at what the unclean spirits or the fallen were teaching mankind, lawlessness, godlessness, abortion, all the things that we see now as like modern stuff, like, oh, abortion, that's brand new. No, they were taught that. And Enoch tells us they were taught that by the fallen, how to smite the infants in the womb. And that's what it calls it. It didn't call it abortion, but that stuff requires us to believe in.
Smite the infant in the womb. That's abortion, isn't it?
Yeah, same thing. But you just read it and you go, oh, there's smiting. Oh, wait, that's abortion, you know. And it's the same stuff we're doing now, the lawlessness. And I think the demonic book that Aleister Crowley wrote, he was from the same place where all those lies came from, the UK. And he actually went to the same school as Darwin's first cousin, who created eugenics, which was what they were doing in Nazi Germany, you know, just wiping out the inferior races.
Yeah.
And even the full title of Darwin's book, On the Origin of the Species, there's a part that talks about the races, the chosen races, I forget what he called them exactly, but it has to do with racism. And so they put that in there and into their teachings, and it's all to bring about lawlessness and a disregard for life. If you see yourself as this highly evolved specimen and everybody else is below you, you're not going to care about them. And that's what they were doing to the people in Germany. That's what they did in America. After the Civil War, they brought a young man, or a young black boy, and like 8 other black men from the Congo region to America as missing links. Put them on display in the Museum of Natural History, and then in the Bronx Zoo with animals. Gave the little boy a monkey and said, "Here, stand out here with the monkey."
After the Civil War?
This is after the Civil War, 1904. 1904 and 1906.
Just a little over 100 years ago.
So not that long ago, and people were coming in and marveling at these people. Like, look at the missing links. They were calling them pygmies and saying, look, and it was a racist guy who believed the stuff that they had created, what Darwin had made.
Yeah.
He was an evolutionist.
Yeah.
And so once that field was brand new, they were like, ooh, how can we capitalize on this?
Exploit this.
Let's go kidnap this person. And the kid's name was Oda Banga, the one that's real famous for it, but there were other children that came along. But Oda Banga, I mean, his family was murdered by his government. He was brought here, held against his will in an exhibit, brought back, remarried. His wife dies. They kidnap him, bring him back, put him on exhibit, and then he ends up eventually, after being on 3 different exhibits with animals and stuff, he finally, when he's about, I think he's around 30 years old, he just killed himself. He's like, depression. You know, I mean, could you imagine how degrading that would be to be on display with an animal?
Yeah, and that was in our modern.
Yeah, those places are still there.
That timeline you're talking about, that's probably up into 1924 or something, if he was brought here when he's 1904, so it's like 100 years ago. What will it be in another 100?
Yeah, and so I'm amazed that these nobody cancels those places. You know, it's like, oh, they were sorry, just keep moving. Mm-hmm. Nobody was punished. Nobody's ever punished. Mm-hmm. Kind of like Tuskegee.
Yeah, you want to cancel something, cancel that one.
Yeah. Yeah, because they were doing some dark things, and that's what you see with false science. You're going to see dark practices, even with
because that was false science.
Yeah, and it seems legit though, because they have cartoons that back it up, and it's just cartoon-based science.
And at that time, they would have been upset at you for talking against it, just like somebody might. Yeah. I bet you get a lot of heat from your post, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
I bet they think you're a nut.
They think I'm crazy, but it's at the same time, I'm battling these doctrines of demons that were created by people who kept secret counsel. They worked together, like Charles Darwin's grandpa. I didn't know this. He was in the Lunar Society as well. So he was a Mason, a Royal Society, and he was in the Lunar Society with Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin is on the $100 bill. Benjamin Franklin's house, they found under his house 15 skeletons in his basement, 6 of which were children. 15. 6 were children.
Well, you don't hear about that
No.
one. I've never heard that.
Yeah, you look it up. They put some of these bones in a museum, like, oh, he cared about anatomy, and they say his landlord's son-in-law liked anatomy, and that was their excuse for why these bodies were brought in. But they were brought in, they say, most likely illegally, meaning these people thought, oh, I buried my child. He's in the cemetery. No, he's not. He's in Benjamin Franklin's house getting butchered, if they were indeed deceased bodies that were brought in. Because he was part of the Hellfire Club, which I didn't even know of until after I did my conference. I was talking about this, and I was like, oh my goodness, he was in another satanic club? What? And so he was having these rituals in it, or I don't say rituals, but he was having these so-called anatomy lessons in his house, 15 of them. Well, my thought was, how long was he friends with that son-in-law? Well, the son-in-law died because of that. He got an infection from dealing with all the dead bodies. He died from it after being married to the daughter for 3 years, his landlord's daughter for 3 years. And so if he did 15 bodies in 3 years in his house, that's a lot of bodies to hide in 3 years.
Yeah.
You know?
2 a month.
When you watch those murder shows, that's a hard thing to do, and they get caught because it starts stinking and it's just gross. Well, my thought was, if he was in these satanic things and he was doing these rituals, they usually do 1 sacrifice a year. How many years did he live in that house? Well, they say he was a resident in that house for about 16 years. It'd been a body a year, almost. Because it says almost 16, nearly 16 years. And so I'm like, well, that makes a lot more sense, because that's a lot. I mean, 6, just think. We don't fathom that because we just think, oh, they were just revolutionary. But no, you're bringing a child, someone else's child, into your house. And that's just heartbreaking. And these are people we glorify, like he's on our $100 bill. The largest bill we have.
Yeah, I've never heard that story either.
And nobody, I
heard more about his teeth.
Yeah.
Isn't that the one that had the wooden teeth, supposedly?
Yeah, him or George Washington, and then he had the he had the kite with the electricity. Like, nobody knew about electricity until this guy allegedly.
He had the key.
As if he's just this great guy who's like, oh, there's electricity up there. I figured it out. No one else knew that.
But why do you want to fight these battles? Why not just get a job and go on an island?
Well, see,
is it a real drive for you?
It is now.
Do you feel a sense of urgency?
Yes, I do, because I see the damage being done, and I feel like we're all in a sense of sleep, where nobody's awake to how deadly these lies are to our children's faith. And our Messiah said, it's better that they have a millstone tied around their neck and be cast into the ocean than to cause these little ones to stumble that believe in him. And here we are going, here, children, go to this place where they're going to go, and they're not going to take you to a temple of Baal or anything like that. Might as well. We're taking you to a God that's not the true creator of heaven and earth. Their God is nothing. Nothing made absolutely everything. And the evidence is colorful. It's flashy. It seems real until you start putting it to the test. And that's what I started doing about almost 10 years ago when I became a biology teacher. And my brother said, look at the evidence of evolution, how false it is. Because me and him were both, at that time, we had been in multiple subjects because we were special ed teachers. And I got into biology, and so I started investigating it because I don't want to teach a lie to my children. Well, I started going, oh my goodness, the peppered moth is a lie. That was a hoax. They were gluing moths to trees. The Piltdown Man was a hoax. The dino bird was a hoax. Like, known hoaxes. Like Nat Geo apologized. They're like, oh, we're sorry. We put this in our magazine. It was a hoax, blah, blah, blah. Move on. Nobody ever gets in trouble. But the imagery sticks and it stays. Ernst Haeckel, the guy that drew the embryos that's still used in our textbooks to this day, drew them to push the racist idea. He also had ideas that matched Darwin's racist ideas for Nazi Germany, for the eugenics program. His embryos were proven false over 100 years ago. They were proven false. Why? Because we have photos of embryos. We don't have to look at cartoons. We can go, here's a real picture, guys. Here's how a turtle looks like a human embryo. They're nothing alike. Oh, look, a fish doesn't look anything like a human embryo. Well, when you had his cartoons, it was just like he drew the same embryo 10 times and just wrote different animal names and goes, see how similar they are? Oh, our evolutionary paths changed there. And those embryos are still, and it's what makes it burns me up, because it'll say on the test, on the end of the course test would say, what does these embryos prove, their similarities? And you have to put common ancestor. If you have an evolutionary test question, just if you see the word common ancestor, pick it, because that's the one they want you to pick. And I tell my kids that. And I told them
You
that.
could fail one in school for not answering the way they want you to.
Yeah, if you answer it the right way, you're going to fail the test. But I taught my children in my class how the evidence is false, how you can put it to the test. Here's what evolution really means. It just means change over time. And we teach it, and I show them, here's where the fraud is. Here's what the dangers it leads to, the dangerous thoughts, the racist thoughts, and all of that. And so they're excited about it because they're like, wow, this stuff we can prove that this stuff is false. And they take the test, and I tell them, we have to all share a same test. My entire science department, we would share the exact same testing materials. We couldn't give a different test. I couldn't go, I don't like this question, I can't use it. They made us we were required to take the same test online on our computers now. And they can see our data and how our children do instantly. It gets uploaded, and they're like, oh, Josh's students did bad or did good. And I didn't expect it, but my children did better on the evolution test than any other class. And I was like, oh, geez. And they're like, what did you do? And I'm like, you want me to tell you? Because I'm going to lose my job. That's how I felt. And so I sent them what I showed my students, and they got mad. They're like, this goes against Darwinian evolution. We've got a field trip planned to the Galapagos Islands where we're going to go and worship a Darwin statue. They put this guy up on a pedestal. And it's sad because their doctrines are so dark, and the people they hung out with did things, like Benjamin Franklin did, and all these others who were partaking in these societies that only met on a full moon. The Lunar Society with Darwin and Franklin, they only met during full moons. That's what covens do, witchcraft people do. Why were they doing that? Oh, they were afraid of the dark. They wanted to have a light when they went home. Like, yeah, right. I don't think me and you are going to have a meeting and go, when shall we meet? Let's just meet on full moon so we can see at night.
Let's don't meet during the day where they can see us.
Yeah. Don't meet at noon.
When did they start schools like
the Rockefeller type style schools where everything's like here and go to the factory.
Well, like what we've got.
Oh, geez.
I mean, when did they start trying to educate children, reckon? Was it in the...
it was
most society didn't even read until when?
Oh, yeah. See,
like 1500 or something?
Yeah, there was a big change in the... literacy levels have gone up. That's a good thing.
Prior to that, they didn't even... I had a guy here, and I was asking him something. He said, hey, they didn't even know what... They couldn't read.
Yeah.
Most people couldn't... It was like 5% of the population could even read.
Yeah.
So how else would they even... So that had to have been prior to schools.
Yeah.
Formal education.
Yeah.
The truant officer, where you have to make sure your kids go.
Yeah.
Wonder when that was. Because around the Appalachia here, some kids didn't go to school.
Oh, yeah. It was, and that's the thing. You have the freedom in some places in America not to go, but you have to do something. Now, like my wife homeschools our children, we have to do something, whether it's virtual classes that have the same curriculum.
And accredited?
Yeah.
It has to be accredited?
Not always. If you do it, depending on the state. Like what I do now, they're not. It's to be in place of a certain class. They can use what we're doing
as their science or biology.
Earth science or life science, as long as the parents are grading the materials and they have something. And our standards were based on regular standards. We took regular biology standards and I modified them to be based on intelligent design. Putting evolution to the test. Like our evolution unit is larger than any evolution unit in a regular classroom because we go through the history of it, where it came from, how it's a lie.
Why even have a class like, why not just teach kids to read, write, and do math?
Yeah.
And everything else, you just study to whatever your interests are.
Yeah.
Some people don't care nothing about a history.
Mm-hmm.
Some people want to study something else.
Yeah.
Not leave biology out of it. Just read, write, and math.
Yeah. And that's the thing that a lot of homeschool parents do is they teach their children how to read really well.
Write, and arithmetic.
Yeah. And then everything's easy after that. The problem is a lot of the reading materials are indoctrination materials, and even the Christian ones. Like my wife gets the science Christian books, that are like, oh, it's a workbook for Christian science. And it's still dinosaurs and space and, the heliocentric model stuff. It's like it's always intertwined in it, and it goes against the Bible. And it's like, but they're saying it's about God, but they're not really believing Genesis chapter 1, which is what everything else is held up on. Why does the firmament have to part when the Messiah returns, according to John and Isaiah, if it's not there? how is every eye going to see him when he returns if we're on a globe? And my wife and I, we used to ask that question. We'd go, I guess technology is our answer. We're going to be looking at our iPhones or iPads, but it doesn't say you're going to see an image of him. It says you're going to see him. And I'm like, oh man, but what if I go to Mars? Because I'm fascinated with space travel. What if what if I'm one of the guys that goes to Mars? Because I was showing the Martian movie to my children at that time period when before I started investigating all this, and I was like, I guess I can't go to Mars then. I thought it was real. It was so real in my imagination.
We can't see it, right? I mean, we all we can see is the sun, the moon, stars.
Yeah, we can see these lights in the sky.
Can you see Mars from a telescope?
Yeah, I've seen it with my P900. Now I got a P1000 I need to try it with. But the Nikon P900, you can zoom way in. And these are
What does
lights.
it look like, Mars?
It's just a red light. And if you can really focus, and you have to adjust your exposure because they're bright. It just looks like a light. You have to adjust the brightness level so you can see a darkened image of it, and it does kind of just looks like just a little red dot. And
the red planet.
Yeah.
So do you think that's real, or is that inside the Van Allen? Do you think the Van Allen belt is the firmament?
I think it's a cover story for it because scientists bounced a signal off of a barrier, and they said, "Oh my goodness, it's like there's an impenetrable barrier up above us." And these bolder scientists that did this, they were writing papers about it. They're like, it's hitting a Star Trek type of barrier. We don't understand why. And then NASA says, oh, don't worry. Our spacecrafts have spotted this barrier. Spotted it? Like you can see it? Like, what do you mean you spotted it? And they said it's these very low frequency waves. It's essentially part of like the Van Allen belts. And the earliest so-called astronauts that went through it, one of them said, what are you talking about? Like, it didn't affect us because, maybe it hadn't been discovered yet. We went right through them. There was no effects on our bodies. Like, now we can't get through them. We don't have the technology to get through them.
Yeah, I wonder how they got,
But they had it back then. We destroyed it, allegedly.
Yeah.
Like, if you had something that
worked.
worked.
And they didn't burn up either.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there's no plans. We destroyed. Like, you've got plans from houses you've made. If you had to remake it, you could just use those plans to remake it, right?
Yeah.
They don't have that with their old technology. It's just like, oh, we don't have the technology because we destroyed it. And Don Pettit said it's a painful process to build it back again. Just take the blueprints and rebuild it. Send people again. But they sent them on a Saturn. This is what's fascinating too. They sent them on a Saturn rocket for the Apollo missions, right? Saturn, Apollo. When you look at your dollar bill, it says like Novus Ordo Seclorum on there. I looked up where that came from, the New Order of the Ages. Because everybody's always fascinated and focused on the pyramid with the eye, and they're like, oh, Illuminati symbolism. No, read that. Where does that come from? It comes from a Roman Cumaean prophecy, talking about the new order of the ages of the worship of Saturn, Satan, and eventually the transfer of that power to the reign of Apollo. That's what's on our dollar bill. And that's what that's about. It's Roman, and it's worshiping these deities. That's what it is about. That is the great seal of the U.S. And so you can look up where that prophecy comes from, and it talks about Apollo and Saturn, and that's where they use the Saturn rockets during the Apollo missions. And it also talks about one it calls the Holy Lucina, which is Artemis. Artemis is the new moon mission. And guess what? Artemis was mentioned in the Bible. They worshipped Artemis in Ephesus and Ephesians. They're like, didn't Artemis fall from the sky? They're getting mad. They're trying to convince their people because they make idols for a living, these guys that are dealing with Paul in this new gospel message. And so they're like, Artemis fell from the sky and we worship her image to this day. And isn't it a fact? And they teach it like it's just this fact like they do now with false science. But I was looking up, wormwood, right? Wormwood in the Bible falls into the water. Wormwood, the scientific name for wormwood is Artemis. Artemisia. And so they know these things. They know Revelation. They don't want us to know it. And so they're going to unfold their plan using all these deceptive powers, lying signs and wonders, making fire fall down from above, and you got Donald Trump worshiping Elon, like, who can make fire rain down from above?
Yeah.
Only Elon.
Well, I hate they got in an argument. I hated that.
Yeah, I don't like the divides this stuff causes. And I try not to make fun of any side because I know that I could just as easily be into so many different beliefs because there's so many it's like watching pro wrestling now.
Yeah,
when you turn on the
right.
politics and stuff, it almost became so fake that it's laughable. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I used to think it was real. I used to think pro wrestling was real, and now it's like I'm watching this stuff going, this seems so scripted.
Even the reality shows are looking fake to me now.
Yes, they are. It's like everything just seems so. Even fights, it's like everything just starts seeming so scripted and
Yeah,
it's
they've been
false.
saying the NFL. They're
Yeah.
on that now.
There's a script,
Yeah,
you know, and I think it is that way.
He went off the script. Went off script.
Yeah.
Hey, what about these metal tubes they found they claim were under the Egyptian, the pyramids? Have you followed that any?
I haven't. Is it? Was it somebody that found it and did a video about it?
Well,
themselves, or-
they're thinking they've detected it.
Yeah, I think that they might be a pre-flood structure. There could be way more under them. They could be covered with large amounts of soil. They could be the top of obelisks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the pre-flood
right.
world, we don't know.
We don't know
What all it
And
exactly
they did
looked
build
like.
it in kind of a low area.
Yeah. Well, they align with the stars in Orion's belt, and you'll see the other pyramids around the world do that same type of design.
Yeah.
You know, where there's one kind of off-centered because they're trying to align with Orion, which the Orion capsule is what they're using with their Artemis missions, I believe. And it's like it's all about these deities. They don't ever name it after Bible characters, you know.
yeah.
Their very first mission was on Mercury, and you look at their Mercury patch; it's an upside-down cross in their logo. Mercury was the deity guiding souls to the underworld. If you're creating an organization that's about going up,
Yeah.
why are you going to name your very first mission after a deity that goes downward and guides souls that way?
Yeah, was it just a coincidence or what?
It's always like, oh, it's a
Yeah.
coincidence,
Yeah.
you know. But
I thought it was a neat shape.
yeah. And then your first moon mission, who are you going to name it after? A Genesis mission? No, you're going to name it after a sun god. You know what I mean? It's like, why sun god? You're going to the moon, you're not going to the sun.
Yeah.
And so that's part of that new age that they're trying to usher in of the worshiping of these deities. And our Father said, don't even utter their names, you know, but they're trying to get us used to uttering their names. It's in the days of the week, the days of the month, the missions that they go on.
Yeah.
And so we're always speaking their names all the time. And in the Bible, they didn't have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You know,
August.
It was the first day, the second day, the seventh day. You know, the first month. The month. It's like everything was so easily numbered and laid out. It was so nice. And now we're in a different world. We start our new year in the middle of winter. You know,
Yeah, right.
Like they started their new year when life came back in the spring. You know, April. And so it's like now that's April
Boy, it's
Fool's
all
Day.
so confusing. How do you have time to study this?
Oh, it's just
I
been.
mean, what do you do? Go in a room and read up on something?
Yeah, I've done, and it's weird because I hated reading. I hated reading when I was young. I was
How
a
do you
slow
have
reader.
time for it?
I don't sleep hardly. I hardly ever, like I'm usually studying more than I'm doing sleeping or anything else. And last year when I was creating 4 different class lessons,
Yeah.
which is a lot. I don't wish that on any teacher. If you want to teach 3 preps is about where you want
Yeah.
to stop. But I was creating 4 classroom experiences at the same time every week. I was working like 17 hours a day, which is probably about what you do when you
Yeah.
have your business.
Yep.
And you work all the time and you get, and you almost become a workaholic. I used to not understand that about people, how they could be a workaholic. But once you have to do it to survive, like you started your own business and you're like, well, I got to work hard to survive.
Fear.
And then that drives
Yeah.
you to where it's like, I got to build a reputation. I got to build a name. I got to build this. And
Am I doing this right? Am I doing
Yeah.
that wrong?
and if anything falls, it's on you. So it's a lot of pressure.
And then you start looking at how other people do it, and you say, should I be doing it that way?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is. People don't understand. It's so much easier. Like you would have an easier time if you went back and got a 9-to-5 steady paycheck. You know what I mean? And
I would try to build a boat after hours or something.
Yeah.
I seem to only function when I'm in a fight. Mm-hmm. You know, when there's an emergency, or
Yeah.
seems like I'm just built for the emergency.
Yeah.
Or so sometimes I have to create one in my mind.
Yeah.
So that I can feel like, see, what I've got right now is everything's going so good that I'm going to probably mess something up.
Yep.
And then I've got to put it back together. But I'm busy, so I have to trick my mind into saying, "Oh no, you've got to close your books for the end of the year. You better hurry."
Yeah.
So I have to trick myself into thinking that's a fight,
Yep.
or I will let someone else give me a fight
Yeah.
because I'm going to have a fight.
Yeah. That's how it is.
That's the way my mind works.
Yeah.
At least I'm at this age. I've figured out at least what I'm thinking.
Yeah, you have to trick your mind into that fight or flight.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I have to kind of get myself that way because I've got a lot cranking out too. Where I'm like I'll tell myself, I know my ambition is like I'm going to make 4 workbooks this summer, and then I'm going to be ready. And then I get done with summer, and I've got 1 workbook, and I'm like, that didn't go like I planned. Now I've got to make 3 more, but classes have already started, and so you're always building stuff. But I think for me, I'm building something that's not a temporary like with what I was doing before teaching. I was still teaching children. I was still giving them a good example, but it wasn't permanent stuff that would affect their faith for the rest of their life and their salvation. And because we're about to be tested, we're all going to be tested with our faith, with a big deception. And our Father's doing something special because I didn't know it until I jumped into this role and stepped out of the teaching, public school teaching setting. Because the last time I talked to you, I didn't sign my contract, but then I took another teaching job. And then that year was when I decided to make the online program, Creation Standard. But I didn't understand until I stepped into this and had these people join me from around the world that our Father is doing something with his children that I've never seen before. These children have faith. They're on fire. They are passionate about truth, and they're young. But these children are something special. They have such faith, and they will correct me. If I start a class and I forget to pray, they'll say, Mr. Keefe, you forgot to pray. And they know that in the times past when I ever have forgotten to pray that the classes don't go as good. But we bring in prayer back into the classroom, which you know from experience when they took it out, because I remember we used to pray in school, when they took it out, and it was just a lunchtime prayer, you know.
Yeah.
But they took that out, and all of a sudden school shootings and things started happening. It was like, what happened to our schools? We just did one little thing, you know. We separated church and state. But it was like that simple little thing.
Whenever you read a story in the newspaper or see something on television about somebody getting arrested, you naturally assume they're guilty. Unless the story's about you or someone you love, then you'll think differently. And you'll want a lawyer who will defend you. My name's Scott Canavis. If you or someone you love has been charged with a crime, call me. I'll return your phone calls, I'll work on your case, and I will defend you.
When you say a lunchtime prayer, you mean just a simple, quick thing?
I remember they would say, you know, you'd bow your head. We would say they would come on like over the intercom.
Oh, yeah, we did that at school.
And it was like,
they'd read I can't remember how they did it, but there was something.
Yeah. Give us this day
It quit
our daily bread.
after we left.
Yeah, it was weird because I remember I think it was when I was in South Georgia. We went to this really old school that I can't even find pictures of this school now online, but they demolished it and now it's just a softball field. And after we moved to North Georgia, it was like no more prayer in school. I'm like, guys, are we not going to pray? We're just going to eat. And they're like, yeah, what are you talking about? I'm like, we prayed at my old school. Like, what's going on? I guess that tradition they didn't cut it out yet, and it just was gone. Just
Are you still in Dalton?
I'm actually in Ringgold, Ringgold, Georgia, and so I'm working from home. I took a year where I worked at
that's right, I knew
Lafayette Middle,
Yeah.
and I was there teaching life science, and so I've used my teaching experience as a biology teacher, a life science teacher, because it's basically the same. Biology and life science is the same thing. Just one's for younger students, and so I avoid with my younger students talking about sexual reproduction and things like that. It's more of like an intro to intelligent design is what we call it. And then we have our biological design class for the older students. And we have students ages like 5 all the way to like 80. Like we don't say, oh, you're too old. You know, if somebody wants to come and take our class, our upper level classes,
do they tune in all at the same time?
Sometimes, I'll have 4 options on Monday for one class. And some students will it's the same lecture 4 times, but they'll come to every single one, some of them. And some will just go
or
to
they
one.
Can go to the recording.
Yeah,
Is it
and it's recorded. Yeah, so they can watch the recording. They can go and play it if they're
So
out
when
of
they,
town.
what's interesting? You guys, that's a different thing.
Yeah, it's
You're
totally
always
different.
thinking a little bit ahead.
Yeah, and so this was a scary thing for me because I'm telling you, I prayed about it and I was like, I've had a steady paycheck for 16 years.
I'll
And it's
start my
easy.
own school.
If I do this, what if it fails? You know, it's always, what if? How's this going to affect me? And I was praying in my office. I was thinking about it and in agony. And I remember I said, how's this going to affect my family? How's this going to, and all this. And finally, it was like the Holy Spirit, it was just like, it gave me the right words to say. How is this going to affect you? Not me. Because before my thought, it's always about me. We're self-centered just by nature. It's like the world wants us to be that way. And I remember it was like, how's this going to affect you? And it was like, wait a minute. If I guide my steps onto how my walk is going to affect his children and him, I'm not going to make the decision that's like, I'm not going to go back to where I'm at. I'm going to go a direction I feel like he's pulling me to go. And so he gave me the ability to battle that fear and take that step. And it's been the most work I've ever done, but it's been the most blessed I've ever been in my life. I've learned more in the last year than I learned in all my years as a teacher and probably all my years in school. And I went to school for almost 20 years, it seemed like. I mean, I went to my 5 years for my undergrad, 2.5, 3 years for my master's and teacher certification. So it was like, man, I spent many, many years in a classroom. I never got out. You know, this is my first time being out of the.
You did all that to quit.
All of that, yeah, just to go, done.
Yeah.
So it's like,
right.
But the Father used that information that I learned.
Because I couldn't do it. You have to know what you're doing
Yeah.
to even write the book,
Yeah.
the curriculum or the
Oh gosh, yeah.
class.
I'm learning so much language and different things, and that's what it is. We get intimidated by big words, and that's why I failed biology as a freshman. In high school, is the big words scared me. I was like, oh, big words, I don't know. Like, it's too much words, all these different words, you know. And now I'm like, don't be intimidated. Like, as a creationist, don't be intimidated by the big words. Look at them, study them, and look at what they mean, and you can often use them to debunk their lies, which is what's really cool. And you can do that with lots of different things, especially the origins of life. You can use their own words against them, you know, because you had to have a first cell. What are cells made of? Where do those parts come from? And it's like, oh, the NIH, the website that our government uses to bring us this information says, oh, the first cell probably came about when self-replicating RNA was just existing. Well, self-replicating RNA, that would be like a self-replicating cup. Like this cup's going to grow another cup.
Yeah.
That'd be impossible. But if it already existed and it's self-replicating, why does it need a cell membrane? And they say, well, a cell membrane found it in this vast ocean, this vast
Ran
ocean.
into it.
Phospholipids, which are your cell membranes made out of these allegedly phospholipids, trillions of them or millions of them. And they just happened to find that self-replicating RNA
All of them?
and just wrapped around it. And then what? Then it became two cells? And so.
Well, that'd take so many years.
Yeah, they would say, oh, it takes millions. There was billions of years, they'll say. Well, my thought is, and as a rational person, is where do phospholipids come from? Where are they found in nature? Do they come from rocks and water? Because that was the only two ingredients they had, right? Where do they come from? Well, they're not made in nature. They're made by existing cells, by a specific organelle within the cells. The endoplasmic reticulum is making these. And so your body is this masterfully designed piece of, I don't want to say machinery, but like of creation where your cells, to make copies when you cut yourself or when you're growing, in order to make a copy of a cell, or just like you're making a copy of a car, you can't just copy the tires. You got to copy every single part before you make another car. Yeah. Every single part. Or otherwise it's not going to function. And so your cells are doing that, right? Your skin cells are making copies of skin cells by growing all the essential parts, all the
And they're going to communicate
everything.
with the rest of your body too.
Yeah, it's all connected. And so you can use their wisdom against them and their words against them. If you don't know, if you just read that and you said, oh, phospholipids, self-replicating RNA, that's too much. You're going to miss out on the fact that you can destroy that lie with just understanding where these things come from and what those words mean. And a lot of people don't question it. They miss it, but they use a so-called tree of life to support their evolutionary narrative. And their tree of life has no roots at all. You go to the bottom of it. Quit looking at, I was always looking at the branches. You know, the monkeys turning into people, the fish walking on land. Yeah. Ignore that. Go to the bottom. It has no roots. It's just this floating cartoon tree that doesn't stand the test of time. And that's why you don't ever see images and cartoons of trees learning to walk on land. You always see a fish like flopping on land and turning into a person.
Yeah.
You know, but it's
all
never
of a sudden starting to walk.
Yeah, it's never a tree because we can't do that with trees. There's no missing links with trees. You can't do the Piltdown Man hoax with a tree. You know, there's no missing links. And trees, like I said earlier, take sunlight, water, and air and make thousands of pounds, millions of pound creations that no other technology can do. We can't take sunlight, water, and air and make anything useful like sugar and oxygen like they do, like our father's plants do, that he made. So it's like, maybe there was intelligent design there. Maybe we should look into who's
And you
made
didn't
that.
always believe this way, right?
Well, yeah,
You
yeah,
thought the Earth was round
Yeah.
till when?
till 2017, around 2017.
So not that long
Yeah,
ago.
not that long ago. Yeah, I'm fairly new to this. It feels like just yesterday, but I've learned more since then than I did prior to that on all the years of my life, because you start trying to prove everything. Before, the system is believe all things.
Yeah,
That's
let
what
it
the world,
go. Go to the ball
believe it,
game.
Believe it, move up.
Yeah.
Believe it, repeat
Yeah.
it, move up.
Yeah.
And now it's like, no, prove it. And I'm like, oh, geez, prove it. Okay, that's more fun. That's actually a challenge. It's like a game. It's like, I'm going to try to prove what I used to believe. And my goodness, it's embarrassing when I look at what I used to believe, because I'm like, man, that was pretty dumb. But the Bible tells you the wisdom of this world is foolishness to our Father. And I'm like, wait a minute. The wisdom is? So wisdom is foolishness? How can wisdom be foolishness? Well, because it's created by this world. It is wisdom. Has a lot of interesting speaking points to back it up, but it's not true. You know, and so if you're wise, it says, if anyone seems wise among you, let them become a fool, so that they will be wise. And so it just sounds crazy when you don't really know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But it's you're dropping what the world believes. You're going to look like a moron to the world when you don't repeat what they say. But you're going to look wise to our Father because you're repeating his wisdom, which is foolishness to this world. And so it's hard to step away from it. And at first, your ego gets hurt because you're like, oh man, everybody thought I was kind of smart. Now they think I'm just this idiot in my mom's basement, believing what I saw on YouTube, when in reality, when I was in my mom's basement and I lived at home and I was just believing things on the internet, that's when I felt like I was foolish, because I thought I knew it all. I thought I was teaching when I had a globe in my hand my very first year in an earth science classroom back in 2008, I thought I was teaching wisdom to these children. When I came home and said, hey, Mom, Dad, I know the order of the planets. I thought I knew something. I thought I was bringing them wisdom, when in reality, I was bringing them something that was prophesied in Scripture that was going to happen.
You're just
You know,
telling the narrative.
yeah. And so it is tough. It's tough coming out of it, but it's a blessing.
It's bizarre to think of what we'll learn in the future.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the past, things have been debunked and opinions have changed,
Yeah.
even in the government and everything. So, I mean, at one time they thought they burned witches.
Yeah. Well, now it's legal. It used to be illegal. I think that's weird. That
It was
it was illegal, and now it's
Yeah.
legal.
Remember that? Remember that Monty Python, when they said if a log it was trying to justify burning the witch,
Yeah.
they just kept talking till it made sense
Yeah.
on Monty Python.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. That one's funny, but
Well, you're going to have to come back in another two years?
yeah, and you can also have my brother come back. He's
Hey, that'd be great. What's his main thing?
I've got a twin brother who was like me. We were both teachers.
Does he look just like you?
He looks a lot like me, so
Yeah.
it'll be confusing. He sounds a lot like me.
Are y'all the same age?
Yeah, 7 minutes. He's 7 minutes older than me. And so he always tells me, he says, you'll know what that's like.
In
7 minutes from
7 minutes.
now. You know? Yeah, you'll learn. You'll be like me eventually. You'll wise up. But yeah, my wife and I, she's the one who, she's like my secretary. She helped me start Creation Standard, and without her, it wouldn't have been possible, because she does registration and all the math, finances, helps me create the business accounts and do all that stuff. And so we did that for a year. And my brother was feeling led to go into ministry, and he wanted to go and do FCA. And they said, all right, he had worked with them all year. He's worked with them for years. But he was like, I'm going to go on staff. I'm going to do this full time. I'm going to preach to kids and do this. And I said, okay, you got to sign this statement of faith. Well, he didn't exactly agree with it after he'd already not signed his contract. And they said, you have to sign the statement of faith. He's like, but I don't agree with this one particular part right here. And they're like, oh, just sign it. Don't worry. He's like, no, I can't say that I agree to something that I don't believe in. And they're like, but we know you. You're a good guy. The Spirit's moving. You're doing great. The kids love you. They're like, we'll educate you about that. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I've looked into this for over 20 years. I'm not going to change. Yeah. I know what I know to be true. And so I joked around with him. I said, well, with FCA, you have to raise your own money. I said, I'll let you work for me. You just got to raise your own money. I was joking, but we don't make enough money to have an employee. I didn't realize to have an employee, you got to get workman's comp, you got to do all these things.
Oh, yeah.
It would end up costing me more than I already have, and we're just getting by. And but he started his own thing similar to me, and so it's like.
What's his called?
His is called Foundation Standard. See, mine's Creation Standard, and his is Foundation Standard.
I see.
And so it's the same type of of format. And he does biblical world history, which is real history, and he does math because he was a math teacher, which I could not do. I could never cover for his classes.
Yeah.
But he's got some cool connections in prophecy that he likes to talk about and stuff that he's seeing now with this going through Genesis all the way to Revelation with people of all ages. And it's amazing. It's a history class I wish I would have had in school, where they said, here's Genesis, here's our real history, and here's where it goes to here. And then here's the evidence that's going to back that up. We've got evidence of the flood right here. Here's proof of the Red Sea crossing right here. Here's proof, it's proof everywhere. We're just in mountains of proof. If we lived on a world like they say billions of years ago with all these millions of missing links, we would have so much proof. We wouldn't need one hoax.
I hope I can live another 35 years and see this stuff, see these answers come about. I feel like we're really getting close.
Oh yeah, they're out there. They're just censored like heavily, and so it's answers to things like what are dinosaurs that we now have answers to. We now know why there's no complete skeletons. We now know why there's cut marks on the bones. We know why there's soft tissue on the bones. Like it's because the Bible's true. Let's quit. But the world doesn't waver when they see a proof like that goes against their narrative. They're like, oh well, just keep pushing the same stuff. They're not really phased, and that's their resilience is just they just keep moving down the same path.
Now the big thing is which Bible's real.
Yeah, which one's the best? Yeah, and I think that's the thing. The Holy Spirit translation, the one where you're reading it and you're like, man, I've tampered with this. Something doesn't seem right. Can you show me what's true? That's kind of the one I use, is where you just pray and say, show me what's true, and he'll help clarify stuff because there's a lot of tampering that has been done. He's preserved the essential parts, and but the essential parts in this translation might be different than the ones in this one.
So seek and ye shall find.
Yeah, seeking is the biggest thing, and be careful what you ask for, because he's going to answer, and it's going to be powerful because he's answered prayers that I'm like.
Some of this stuff would turn your world upside down.
Yeah, it's life-changing, miraculous stuff,
and do away with a lot of businesses that rely on these things.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'm sure there's a lot.
Oh, yeah. There would be a lot of people without jobs. And it's a lot of good people, too, like NASA employees. I'm friends with one who was a previous NASA employee who now believes in biblical cosmology. And he says, man, 95 to 99, 98% of them are just good people. He said, I thought I was just making a difference. I didn't realize that these things were going out to Point Nemo or wherever they were going. There's a reason we don't have uncut footage longer than 5 minutes, 10 minutes, on these launches and stuff. They're not showing us where they're going.
On the astronauts, I assume you don't think we went to the moon, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Who was taking the picture?
I know. Yeah, there's controversy because when you see them first landing or first stepping out, there's like a camera out there.
Yeah.
And they say it was a camera that just popped out. A vacuum-proof camera that was just sturdy enough to go. Whoop, here it goes.
Yeah.
And we're using Zoom in the.
Yeah, and they took
over 50 years
the
ago.
picture, and then they.
And FaceTiming.
They didn't even hardly have video cameras in.
And we were FaceTiming the moon live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
We couldn't even do that in the 2000s, early 2000s. I'd try to Skype my dad, and it was like.
I can't hardly watch cable without it starting to blink.
Oh, but they were doing it live and talking to him on a landline. The president was, like, we're from the Oval Office here.
Do they think we're stupid?
I guess if enough people believe it, though, it seems like wisdom, when nobody questions it. And but I mean, try putting on a spacesuit and going in a vacuum chamber. Oh no, I'm just kidding. Don't try that at home. Don't try it at home. You're going to swell up like a balloon. Like you can just take a miniature scale version. And try
You know
these
what
things.
your calling could have been? A stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I've thought about it sometimes because some of the stuff is so funny,
Yeah. I think you'd have a knack for that.
Yeah, it would be fun. It'd be fun to make people laugh, but without making fun of them. Because that's the hard part. Because it's almost like, because someone, I still believe that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you. It's just, I used to believe in it too. I can laugh at my old self. I can laugh at what I used to believe.
I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing with you.
Yeah. So I do think it is fun to make fun of to make jokes about the deceivers because They deserve it. And it's kind of a punishment. And I feel sorry for a lot of them. I pray for them that they came to terms with what they had done and maybe, confessed, kind of like Werner von Braun, one of the NASA founders before he died. He said, they're planning a deception. And he laid it out. And everything he said has come true except for the very last one, which was the alien card. He said the final deception is their alien deception, where they're going to fake this, threat from above. And who knows, if you're trying to get people to war against God Almighty, have these people
So you're
come here.
saying maybe this is faked, even the...
Oh, the alien stuff's definitely faked. And it's part of what we've been warning people about this before the Congress was
So
talking
you
about
think
it.
there's no aliens?
None. Absolutely not. But there's religions around it, and they're doing these things, and they're talking to these beings, and it's all demonic.
So I'm going to go home tonight. I was planning on watching Age of Disclosure, that new movie, documentary.
Instead of that, watch this. Go to our channel and watch The Final Card.
The Final Card.
My brother made that. You can talk to him about it.
It'll be debunking what this is saying.
Yes, it's going to show you the plan in motion that's coming true. I mean, they're playing it out. But you could imagine if you had this high technology, they call them now, they're saying non-human biologics. Yeah, demons are non-human.
Yeah.
Whatever hybrid, whatever they bring in, these things are...
NPCs.
Yeah, they're going to say, they could say, oh, we're here to warn you, there's another threat coming. And people are going to buy it because they're going to have all this technology, right? Oh, here's another threat coming. We need to align against that threat, which would be the return, And so they're going to try to war against God Almighty. They need lies that are supported by things that they have worked to create for years. That's why we're censored. I can't get billions of views like some of these little videos, that are just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But it's because it's designed. They designed this. They've created this. They've worked so hard. They're not going to let the truth just run free. It was for a little while until they said, what can we do to stop this information from spreading? Stuff like flat Earth. They literally had a press conference and they talked about this and they said, we're going to just censor it. And they did. I mean, I was getting 40,000 views a day or more per, just putting out videos. It was just boom, they're just taking off. And one time I got 250,000 views in just a couple days and I thought, oh my goodness, this is amazing. This is going to just keep going. And they delete the video. If they can't stop it and censor it, they just delete it. And I'm like, wow, they took my video down, And then it's like censorship, and you can see it. It's like those pulse rates, it's like analytics going way up, then it just goes flatline. And it stays down low. It never went back up like it was because they're controlling it. They don't want us to be aware of what's about to happen. And it's probably going to be harder when the stuff actually does happen. They're probably just going to take it all away from us to where it's all word of mouth, and you're running around telling people, which it's a lot harder than showing them an educational video. It's like, now I got to explain this to you.
Right.
Here's the book of Revelation. This is what we're up against. It's going to be hard to convince people.
We may have to go to Mexico and get a job.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, brother.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.